Ready? Aim!
There's too many!
Anyone see my mammoth?
Stubby! Hello! We're back.
Hello, hello.
I'm back. You're back. We're back. It's Monday. Oh, it's Monday again. What frightfully amazing things have you been up to this last week, Clarence?
Let's see here. Amazing things. I've actually got to play some games. Oh my gosh. For last week's event, I took a small trip to Quebec and was spending time with my girlfriend, just seeing sights, doing hiking, and very thirsty to play. Saturday, there was a tournament at Black Knight Games in Hamilton. Unfortunately, we had other things planned. I actually got to go to Fan Expo, which is really cool, and meet some...
cool.
I actually didn't get to meet anyone cool, but all the cool people were there. Never been to Fan Expo before.
Just here, it's like, some cool people over there. Nah.
Yeah. It's like, behind that curtain are the actors from Stranger Things, and over there where the hobbits are going to be, So that was cool to be in the same room as them, I guess. That was really neat. And then Sunday, managed to sneak off and get a couple games in with some friends, so that was nice. How about yourself? How's your week?
I worked mostly. Did that. And then did absolute jack all this weekend, as is my life. Mostly sleeping. Yesterday, me and my partner, I don't know what it was, Saturday night was just a write-off, but yesterday me and my partner stayed in, and we didn't, normally she wakes up about 10 on a Sunday. I didn't wake up until 1, and she'd already been up for about 10 minutes, and I was like, how are you not up and awake and things? And yeah, so yesterday was a proper write-off, which was a bit of a shame. But yeah, much needed, catching up on all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
because work is a bitch. I tell you what else happened though. If anyone is listening on the podcast, if anyone is here likes the podcast got updated because I finally managed to solve the problem that I had with it. And as a result, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe Thursday. Honestly, I can't remember. I uploaded something equivalent to 15 hours of audio onto the podcast. So,
nice.
Yeah. I hope that people enjoy that one. All right then. What else happened this weekend? Played a couple of games. Played some Varamir stuff. I don't like Varamir as a commander. I don't think he's good. He's not bad, but he's not good. We'll get on to him in a minute. What else? I saw more Martells being played. That's the thing. The Adopticons kicked off online. I think it got 60 odd or 70 players. I think in the end, 58 maybe. I can't remember. And yeah, I think that's about it. So, news was quiet. Yeah, that was it. Episode done, right? And I think actually that's actually kind of the most important thing, right? Martells are out. We saw the massive content drop. As a massive content drop. They did some content in the guise of On the Table, who at this point had basically Chase is basically their marketing team. Simon have said literally nothing. Right?
Yeah.
They said Martells are out, there'll be some content this week. Then Martells got released. And then nothing happened. And Martells aren't even released, right? That's actually the weirdest thing. Is that the Martells aren't, strictly speaking, released, and obviously yourself, you have them, and the Canadian stores that were selling them, it turns out it was an Asmodee mistake, and all of the stores in Canada that have them have now had to stop selling them, which is just insane. It's insane that there's this thing that we literally know is out there, that we know is in shops, but they're not allowed to sell it for street date reasons, and at this point, it's just ridiculous. I know they might have been trying to go
Classic.
for
Classic Simon.
Classic Simon. It's 4 weeks away from the LGT as well, and I know the organisers are working really hard. They've already done most of the work. They're now just kind of like ticking over for that, and they're still waiting to see if they hear back from organised play and what's happening there. I believe that Asmodee UK is having some issues as well. If anyone wonders, by the way, there's a theme here that I'm running into, which is Asmodee aren't very good at this whole communication thing. And the regional sectioning of Asmodee it's bizarre, right? So when we spoke to Ilya from Germany, from the German community, a month or so ago, he literally works with Asmodee, and his communication with Asmodee is really good. Like, they completely on it, really supportive of the game. Yeah. Asmodee France seems pretty good with the French community. Asmodee Spain has been like the source of stuff for ages in terms of just randomly seeing boxes appear and, oh look, there's some models. Asmodee US? Dog shit? Asmodee UK? Asmodee UK is super weird because I actually know people at Asmodee UK, like game testers and things. Asmodee UK are kind of like, we don't really talk to anyone, but if you just turn up and ask for prize support, we'll give you some. Like, no word of a lie, that's almost exactly what Chris did last year. He literally turned up at the warehouse and went, you owe us some prize support, and they went, okay, take what you want. Which is
Nice.
Bizarre. Anyway, yeah, apart from that, it's been a relatively quiet week. People have complained that Varamir is too strong. I'm just going to quickly, I played Varamir Commander today, and I sucked with him, got beaten by WOP. Clearly, I made the mistakes, and he played well. But, just look at his current thing here. So he has got losses, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 losses now. Rip. But he has been racking up a lot of wins. That doesn't surprise me. Anything with lots of activations does well, right? And we're seeing it run 9, 10 activation lists. It's going to do well against most things. I'm still really on the fence of whether it's better than Mance into anything. I think the only thing I would use this for is the circumstance with Mag in a 9 or a 10 list. And I don't think that that's that good, because I don't think you get any leverage with specifically Mag in a late activation style. If you've got already out activating you, they're already charging you late in the round with Mag. Having more activations to achieve that doesn't help that. And there's only 2 people
I guess
who've lost.
The question from me to you is, how did you feel when you pulled his commander cards? Did you feel like, hey, this one's pretty good, or like crap?
One of I've been bringing a unit back on for free is just ridiculous. That's a good card. Activation back on. The attack and just do a maneuver somewhere else there. That's fine. The other one where you make an attack and you attack again, like counter assault, basically. That's a piece of shit. I won't go into why I think that is, but essentially, anything that allows these kind of like countercharge style stuff is not particularly good, just because it's easy to play around it. Or is it this one? Bonded Guardians. Bonded Command. Oh, it's Bonded Guardians is fine, sorry. Bonded Command is the bad one. I misplayed, though, pretty heavily in the game I played, and I missed an easy Bonded Command option, which I should have used. Which would have probably done... I don't know if it was saved the game, but it certainly would have made a difference in the game. So yeah, that was my misplay. But yeah, among other things, did some other misplays as well. My opponent didn't. But yeah, it's I don't know. I played into WOP. I played into WOP's Kevin list, and I know playing into that list with Mance that I feel very, very comfortable. Right, I would say myself, like, I had Endless Horde on round 1. He counterplotted. Fair enough, that happens. I feel comfortable that going into that matchup with Mance, I win that game like 80 to 90% of the time. With Varamir, I didn't feel that way because these kind of like late game charges. People talk about, oh, you can get 2 or 3 charges in the late game. That just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen because your opponent's probably running cavalry, should be running cavalry, and they're by far the largest threat piece. And when they charge with their heavy cavalry, like talking flayed men, Knights of Castle Rock, Tiny Cav, these are killing low wound units. Not guaranteed, but a good, basically anything with 6 or less wounds is going to get killed by that kind of unit. That's what they're designed to kind of munch on. And that is fine, by the way. It's absolutely fine that they're designed to munch on that. But it means that if you're looking to tie this unit up and kill it first, you're never going to get 2 or 3 charges on this kind of unit easily, comfortably, because they're going to deliberately charge block and kind of like work around that a lot. And as a result, at the end of the day, you're kind of stuck in this weird position of going, I've got all this out activation, but most of it doesn't really do anything in the later parts of the turn anyway. I can maneuver, I can go wherever I want, but if I don't pin this specific unit down, he's just going to go kill one of them, and then I've got one less unit to do all of that again. And then when you can lead into an opening on the swords. You have no charges off the swords, and sword plays with chariots are just shite. They're no good. I don't know. I'm not convinced. That doesn't mean I'm not going to try it again. I'm not convinced.
Or I guess the question could be: would he be a good second list versus Styre or somebody else?
I really like Styre as a second list. Styre has a place in my heart as my second list. But I can imagine Varamir might be a second list. There's some stuff that I quite like the Varamir list into. So we'll see.
Yeah. I guess the question is, I was going to say, is Varamir too similar to Mance in that he's just trying to leverage more activations, and Mance already kind of does that? Is it too similar? Does it bring extra tools? I don't know. That would be the questions I would ask.
Yeah. My thing is that Varamir doesn't bring anything that Mance doesn't. In the ways that I want. Like, he has 0 interaction with the tactics board, which is bad because that's the one area of the game which free folk don't interact with like at all, really. There's none of this Baelish where I can take one zone, take another. You have Craster and you have Val as replacements, which are useful. Obviously, they're like the big users of those things, of those kind of NCUs. But you don't have Christophers, you don't have Courtneys, you don't have anything like that. Elena, you have nothing on that side of the game where you can shut an NCU off or do any significant damage to NCU unless you're taking Mance 6-pointer. I think 6 point for an NCU is just a hard sell regardless of what that NCU is. Yeah, I don't know. If Mance gets nerfed into the ground, Sixskins does provide something. Yeah, he does. I think Sixskins would provide that Mance wouldn't. You're saying that Sixskins isn't that good because Mance skews the win rate so much. Partially. It's partially that, but it's also... It's not so much Mance skewing the win rate so much as... Mance offers you everything that free folk want. Right, this is actually the problem. It's why Styre is okay, because he offers things that free folk can leverage. It's why the Walrus is okay, because he has things that are just strong. Mance has all that kind of stuff. He shores up a weakness, and he also offers you things that are just always going to be useful. I was saying in chat earlier today, predictable maneuvers, which Kevin has, and Mance has, and Ariakas, I know that you literally just played a game against predictable maneuvers.
Oh yeah,
and predictable maneuvers. I mean, I'm just going to straight up say this. I think Endless Horde is broken, and I think it's terribly designed, and I hate it. Right, I hate this idea that you just draw Endless Horde on round 1, going first, you put another unit on the board and go, hey, my win rate just rose to like 90%. Like, that's just stupid. However, I think predictable maneuvers could well be the strongest card in the game. And Arrakis, you literally just played into this. Having this decision where it's like, right, you make a decision now, and regardless of the decision you make...
Yeah, there's no decision.
Yeah. Like, you're just going to get wrecked.
Exactly.
You've activated and done nothing. The way I saw it is Parlay, right? You played Davos Commander in Baratheons, and you've played a bit of Doran. Did you play a bit of Doran with Parlay?
I did play Doran once. I got the card. Don't think it mattered when I got it. Yeah.
But Parlay is I activate my unit, and then it forces your unit to activate. A tiny bit of healing in there. And if you've got an 8-point or 9-point unit, it's like, haha, my 5-point unit of wardens or my 5-point unit of spearmen or whatever in Martells have wasted your 8 or 9-point activation. And I just say, well, I just charged my 9-point unit into your 9-point unit, and so I'm activated. And now predictable maneuvers, you have to activate because it's your last unit left, and you have to choose an action because you're engaged. So do you want my 9-point unit to attack again? Or do you want to declare an attack and maybe I'll retreat? It's Parlay without me having to activate. It's just better. And as a result, like leveraging that with something like a Mance or something like that is just Mance with Mag using that card can charge an 11-point unit or more. Then you immediately just play that and go, okay, I now get a second attack with my 9-point unit in a row, and there's nothing you can do to stop it.
Yep.
Like,
it was painful.
That's broken. Like, that's brokenly good. There is nothing in the game that allows you to do that. Not twice, like not even one activation, then the next activation, but quite literally one turn into the next turn. And there's only one way to play around it aside from like counterplots and stuff like that, and it's relentless. And Varamir doesn't help against relentless, in my opinion, because relentless, well, it doesn't matter how much you're out activated against if you've got relentless, because if you've got a lot of activations, you can just use relentless the turn before we're about to go out, and therefore you're only effectively one more activation more than somebody, and you can always respond to the ineffectual actions if there are any in the meantime. That's just me. Anyway, less about him and more on to the main topic today, but it does lead into it, I think, right? Does it lead into it?
It does. Yeah.
Huh?
We always get into this rabbit hole of free folk discussion.
That's because I'm as the host. Some days we'll talk about 1.6 we used to talk about Starks and MOD all the frickin' time.
That's true.
By the way, we were looking it up. Anyone who is interested, current free folk win rate. Free folk's a bit of a misnomer. Let's look at Mance specifically. Mance specifically, 124 plus 90 is looking at this month, or last month, sorry, a 62% win rate, give or take, right? Which is pretty high.
Pretty high.
How do you think that stacks up against Offal?
If I had to guess,
Old Offal.
Old Othel. Oh, I thought Old Othel broke 70. I thought he was in the mid 70s.
He actually averaged out at 62.75 across the whole season, right, of 2021. Mance averages out, I think, slightly below 60 from all of the games. So he is less powerful, if you will.
Is he closing in? Are you saying he's becoming the new Othel? Is that what you're trying to say, Mickey?
No, I'm trying to say he's equivalent. Right, in terms of within the meta, he's fairly equivalent. But I was looking at 1.6 earlier, right? And I did make some notes on this, so forgive me a moment. But we remember 1.6 area because you remember 1.6 Starks, Mother of Dragons, Free Folk. What was Mother of Dragons win rate at the end of 2020? End of 1.6. Do you remember? I
mean, I was going to shoot high, but after that full averaging out, I'm going to say, let's average out to mid 70s.
Yeah, 70, 73, 72 to 73. percent win rate. Like nearly 3/4 chance to win a game.
Yeah.
Which is just
Very
nuts.
high.
The old Harmer was 59%, and Steer was basically the same in Free Folk. Howland was 61%, and Robb was 59%. In Starks as well. Like, the meta stuff that we're seeing sits at around 60%, give or take. Outside of Mother of Dragons, who's just been leagues ahead. And Offal, averaging 60, 62, 63. I think Mance will average slightly lower than that. He'll probably average like 58, 59 when you look at it. But all of the stuff we're seeing at the top is averaging this kind of level, right? So I do think that's quite interesting. I do really think that that's quite interesting. That when we look at the top end of the game, we are still within bounds, like saying that 60% win rate is getting closer. Like, everything is staying within that 60% most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. If you think of like plus or minus 5% from 50% being like where you want to be, 60 isn't horrible. It's too high, but it's not horrible.
60% is too high. But I mean, with Mance averaging 59, like, he is good. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not being an apologist. But he's not leagues ahead, Not Mother of Dragons 1.6, Jesus Christ. So, anyway, that's I don't know why we're talking about that, but that did come up too. So, anyway, that was a question, wasn't it? That's why. We have some tiers to do. Okay?
Yeah.
Go on, explain to our listeners what on earth we're doing today.
Well, I want some feedback from you as well. I just thought it'd be neat to compare cross-faction, similarly pointed units. And, there's an age-old argument that you can't do this. You can't compare things in Free Folk to things in Night's Watch, etc., because it's always built in the context of your faction. But we do, like, we always compare cross-faction, really, right? We go, how come that thing's worth 6 and my thing's worth 6? I mean, a good argument right now would be something like the Sand Skirmishers for the Martells at 7 points. You compare them to Ranger Hunters who seem similar, and it's like, one is way better than the other, and you don't feel like you're getting great value for the Martells necessarily. So, I think there's that. I just think it's kind of fun to say, what feels good, what feels bad. I've seen other, groups do tier lists, and they have more of a spread. They do like 5 or 6 or even 7 layers, and to me that seems excessive. To me, like, I used to be part of a blog where we would rate stuff that we experience, like a book or a game or food, and my friend would be like, at the end of the day, your blog has to give only one of 2 ratings: recommend or don't recommend. That's it. Do you recommend the book? Is it good? Would you recommend it? You don't? Okay, it's pass or fail. So even 3 arguably is maybe too many, but I think there's enough leeway to say, okay, this thing isn't always good, but it's not always bad either. So I think 3 is sufficient. I don't think there's enough nuance and gradient necessary to rate units. So we stuck with 3. Mickey's gone with some colorful names here: good, bad, and ugly. I like situational in the middle. So for the record, the middle is things that you may want to use, but not always. So don't think that you're necessarily bad if you're in the middle.
It's definitely a bad, but maybe useful. Like, you don't. This is not the kind of thing that you're just sticking into a list and going, that would be good. It's definitely like, this is probably not a good inclusion. But now I want it, and that has a purpose. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. And I want to say that for this particular tier list, it's the 3-point units. We snuck in some of the 2-pointers just because there's not enough 2-point units to really compare.
Yeah.
So they found their way into the 3-point list, and arguably, like, the Borak Spore is not even really a 2-point combat unit, because he's tied to Borak's unit also. So we'll discuss all these things, I'm sure.
So we're just going to go through in the order they are presented for us. So above your head and going through. So we have Freedmen first. Freedmen for Targaryens, coming in at 3 points, of course.
What do you think?
I don't think they're ugly.
Either. I think they're bad. I mean, situational.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Yeah, I am.
So why not ugly? Why are they not ugly?
First of all, anything that doesn't give up victory points is always going to be something that you can leverage in some way, shape, or form. It comes with gang up, and gang up is a good ability. Gang up is a good ability to leverage with infantry or even cavalry on the charge. Really, just anything that you want to leverage. I personally think that they are a bad pick, rather than me just saying everything I say is good, right? But they're bad pick for two reasons. They are kind of slow with a solo with no cav move. This is the exact same problem that giants have had in the past. When I talk about giants, they're clunky to move around, and ultimately they just die to nearly anything. That has value. That has actually serious value. But it's just, yeah, they're just within Targaryens. There are just other things like Stormcrow officers that you want to pick up. If this is, I'll tell you this now. These guys were in Martells, or if these guys were in Baratheon, I think they'd be picked up all the time. I literally just pick them up literally all the time.
I don't disagree, because the thing about the Freedmen in the context of the Targaryen faction is that they have other cheap activations. They've got Jorah, who's in this very same list. They've got, as you said, Unsullied captains, right? So it's kind of like, well, you're not the only way to get cheap activations. So you're right. In other factions that don't have access to 3-pointers, neutrals, this would be like an auto-include, arguably.
Yeah, 100%. You'd see this in every list. But yeah.
And I guess this is where context matters, right? Context matters because we are, we're like, yeah, it's not good in Targaryens. It's not a must-have in Targaryens, but anywhere else it would be like a must-have.
The annoying thing for Targs, of course, as well, is that you now can pick Stormcrow Mercenaries and a Stormcrow Officer for 2 activations for 7, which is arguably better than 2 Freedmen, even though you are spending the extra point, just because the Stormcrows have a little bit more to them, a bit more of a threat. But yeah.
I wanted to add on that, as Mickey said, one of the annoying things with the Freedmen is that you do have to kind of babysit them, and it does limit what your list can do. Because if you play Drogo, super popular commander, I guess even most Drogo armies have that Stormcrow unit, right? So it's not necessarily all mounted all the time. But it sucks to weigh down your army. It's nice to have more fluidity and just be able to redeploy at a drop's notice. And I want to say that the Freedmen are also very good in Unsullied based lists, where you don't necessarily want Jorah, where Jorah doesn't actually bring much to Unsullied based armies. But the gang up in particular kicks in really hard when they're tag teaming with another unit.
The big issue there is that those infantry style lists, they're just
aren't
not
top tier.
Yeah, they're not great, right? They're not great
That's
lists
right.
if we talk about in terms of top tier. So
yeah, we're talking about he's good into a certain list, but that list itself is a situational kind of list. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's in long range, not short range, Bob. But yeah, it's that's not the end of the world, because it's the end of the round when you check, or start of the round, I should say, when you check. Basically the same. And that can be leveraged. That you can leverage that start of the round. You can still hang them out there as a piece of meat as an early activation in the round and go, well, go on, charge that. Which, if your opponent's got stuff that finds it hard to chew through, 8 wounds. 8 wounds or 6? They're 6, right?
6.
Yeah. If you find it hard to chew through the 6 wounds, just naturally, low hits, there's bogs, you're weakened, things like that. It is possible that will survive the charge, and then you're just golden at that point. But it doesn't happen often, and anything that's actually dedicated at killing something like this will eliminate it with ease. But yeah, we'll move on. Should we do Jorah next, given that he's in Targaryen?
Should probably do Jorah next, and then we can just do all the dogs in one shot, since they're so comparable.
I know where I'm putting Jorah.
He's pretty good.
He's pretty good. Yeah. if you are running a Targaryen list, you're probably running Jorah in one or both. Definitely one list. I know that some Targaryen players would say he's not auto-include. He's a bit of a weakness. He is a weakness, but I think it's a weakness that's worth having. Especially, I mean, we will not go into the most ridiculous combo in the game, pretty much, of Veterans Jorah. Veterans Jorah is just ridiculously good, but not like I'm saying ridiculously good. It's not overpowered, right? It's just a very, very good combo. It's very dangerous, and it's what you should be getting from a squishy 3-point solo and an 8-point unit into this kind of like, I can basically delete anything with this combo of moves. You can actually predict it because the scout openings comes out as the order at the start of turn before activation. So you've got an intercept button, if you will, of your own start of turn trigger, and anything else like that when activates. Like, for me, I like this as an 11-point combo that's dangerous because it's about the only 11-point combo in the game I can think where there's foreseeable counterplay while also being all on the Targaryen's turn. Right? There's none of this go over 2 turns malarkey shit, requiring your opponent to do something. And I like that. I like combos that have an element of counterplay but are very strong.
Yeah, he's got that explosive combo, and just as a piece compared to the Freedmen, his mobility is fantastic. He can get where he needs to be. He can also be a good target for ride-by attack, which is often unused otherwise. He can capture objectives, unlike the Freedmen. So because he's like a combo piece, but he can also do all those other things too, he's a pretty big must-have. He does offer a vulnerable point. He is arguably easier to kill than Freedman, perhaps, with only 3 wounds and a 4+ save. And there are certain builds out there. If you've got Othel NCU, scary because he just die round 1 potentially. So not flawless, but very good.
That's the thing, though, and there are Othel NCU. It works out to be about 50% chance to kill Jorah. Just kill him when you take a zone and replace. But I mean, Mel Jaqen, you are unlikely to survive a potential 12 repeated -2 checks. Yeah. Like, you probably will survive some, but you won't survive them all. And if you fail the first one, it's big rip. Like low. I was talking about this actually earlier as well. Low health or low wound solos. People talk about like wilding diplomacy from Mance. The reason I like Mance is it gives you that reach. You can just kind of zap these solos with wilding diplomacy if you choose to take a zone. But it puts the decision on you as the player. Can I risk my solo or not? And that's a decision you should be making before you activate your NCU rather than afterwards. And I'll be honest with you, like, wilding diplomacy I put in the same category as Othel and Mel Jaqen. Right? They're all these kind of reach things that can just go, and that solo over there is dead now. And that's just something you just live with, right? And it sounds really kind of like dismissive, but like, they're all the same kind of thing in my book. Wilding diplomacy has other benefits as well, but yeah, it's. I think it's just one of those things. You just have to kind of accept and move on. And I think Jorah is still good enough to run into Othel NCU. So therefore, he's good.
At least one list, if not both. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. All right then. Doggos, and we'll start with Ghost. We are in answer to. I think. Yeah, he's pretty good, right? In answer to someone else's question, we are going to do unit 4-point and 5-point units today as well when we get there. There is a 4-point unit I think that Ghost is now comparing himself a lot to, which is Coldhands. But I do think Ghost is still good, right?
Yeah.
Are there many John commander lists that don't run Ghost?
No.
I can't think of any.
Yeah, so just to lay it all out, what we said about Jorah is similar. Ghost is fast, mobile, can get where he needs to be. So I think what makes Ghost really good compared to the dogs, obviously, is the fact that he gets to benefit from all of Jon's cards. So when you get sword and shield up, watch from the wall for a 7-inch move, rerollable charge, all that makes Ghost actually very, very mobile and dangerous. But it's also the fact that he can activate with Jon. So Jon can do his whole ranger combo, charge in, shoot. It doesn't always kill off a unit, but then Ghost can charge in with, let's say, 5 attacks that Sunder and just kill that activation. So yes, you double activated, but you also killed an activation potentially before they got to activate and retaliate. So very strong as a result.
Yeah. Definitely agree. Definitely agree. I think... I think Ghost is very good. I don't really have
Is he
much
the
to say.
best doggo? Is he the best doggo?
I might not be. And I think best doggo has got to go to Shaggy Dog.
Ooh, that's a tough one. He's definitely good, right?
Yeah.
He's definitely good. The question is he the best? So let's hear your arguments for why he's the best.
He comes with Sundering, and he comes with Vicious, and if you don't kill him, he hits like a fucking truck. Need I say more? Like, the 3 dogs are basically the same.
4 dogs.
Well, 4 dogs, yeah, if you count Ghost. Shaggy Dog is by far the best value, considering that and Melkor in chat is kind of right. You have to consider the attachment cost. Rickon Osha for 1 point is almost the best 1-point attachment in the game, in terms of value, for the Stark faction, right? So this is a 3-point activation with an attachment that you kind of want to pick anyway. This is good. And then Gypsy mentions the thing in chat that I wasn't going to mention straight away, but Great John combos with Shaggy just make Shaggy ridiculous.
I think as Lucas Aurelius kind of made popular again, I think we'll see a lot more Great John. If we haven't already seen a lot of Great John coming back as the premier Stark commander, Shaggy just synergizes so well with Great John's cards that he does get you a lot of value. So I guess if you think he's the best, I think he's great. I don't know if he's better than Ghost but I guess we can move things around if you want to put to the left whatever's a better 3-point unit, I guess.
Yes, we put Ghost. Do you put Ghost here? We put Jorah here. I don't know if Shaggy's better than Ghost, but Shaggy's better than Jorah. Jorah's really joined the end of this line of this queue of things.
Yeah, I would agree with that so far. Yeah, so I guess we can quibble over is Shaggy better than Ghost.
I think Ghost is better than Shaggy.
Yeah, this is where we could have a third person like Carlo to break the tie and decide where something goes. Yeah,
I flip a coin. That's what I have to do.
Yeah. Oh, it's your show, sir. You get final say. It's your show.
Oh, it is my show, isn't it? Oh, that's how it works. Get wrecked. Right. Grey Wind and Summer up next. Now, should we do Grey Wind first?
Sure. I'm interested where you put Grey Wind.
Where do you think he goes, Clarence? Where do you think he goes?
I think he goes in bad/situational. I'm thinking you might put him in ugly because I know you hate Robb.
I really hate Robb. Jesus Christ, I hate Robb Commander. I actually quite like Robb's 2-point attachment, which makes me stupid because I like a 2-point attachment. But yeah, man, I can't justify someone taking Robb in the current game. The 2-point attachment of Robb isn't good. I like it because it plays into my style, not because it's good. If anyone,
I've never seen that 2-point attachment ever, in actual play.
Yeah, Swift Retreat, which I like, but isn't that good, and Enhanced Ability, which is one of the best abilities in the game, hands down.
That's pretty sick.
You put this in a unit of Crannogman Trappers, you double up on the Swift Retreat, which kind of sucks, but then you have a movement 7, pivot any direction before marching unit, which is just bants, but you're also paying 7 points, and really it's far too expensive for what you're paying.
Yeah.
Short answer is Robb attachment isn't good enough, and Robb Stark commander is like one of the worst commanders in the game. So, yeah, you've not really got much going for you.
I know you hate Robb Commander. I think Carl hates Robb Commander too. I don't hate Robb Commander, believe it or not. Hear me out. Hear me out.
I'm hearing. I'm walking away slowly while I hear you. Okay. No.
The reason why I don't hate him is because I think Tully Cav are such an integral piece of the Stark aggressive list that the worst thing that can happen to them is that they get bogged down. They get charged by something first. And there's lots of there's a lot of movement 6 cavalry out there that can charge them first. So I like that Robb Stark gives you the tools through hit and run, through sudden retreat, to get your key piece out from being locked in combat. Having said that, superior positioning, that card is terrible. I hate any card that on a 4+ or 1, 2, 3 should say does nothing. That card sucks. So you're almost only playing Robb in for sudden retreat. Hit and run can do interesting things if you have assault orders in hand. So if you play assault orders and then you hit and run after they charge you, you're still free to activate and charge back in. But it is definitely situational. So I guess I don't know. I've had good experiences where sudden retreat saved my Tully Cav from being bogged down and locked in. Having said that, does that make Robb worth taking over Eddard and Greatjon? Probably not. So that's why I put him in situational. If I saw Robb across the table, I wouldn't be like, what a fool. I'd be like, crap, I can't lock down his Tully Cav very easily.
Yeah.
So that's my take.
Yeah, I mean,
and it all comes down to Grey Wind. Grey Wind Disrupt actually makes him fairly annoying to kill.
Yeah.
So I like Grey Wind as a dog. Our problem, of course, is the baggage that this dog brings with them, being Robb Stark Commander.
It's too big a cost. Like, you're picking up this wolf effectively for 5 points, or the commander option. And if you're taking, let's put it like this: you're taking Robb. Robb might not be bad, but you're not taking Eddard. You're not taking the now quite popular Greatjon. You're not taking my favorite commander, which is Howland. You're playing a commander who's mediocre, not terrible like trash tier, but I don't like Robb. Don't think he's great. And then you're saying, oh, I'm taking Robb to then have this 3-point unit that's okay.
Yeah. I'm cool with putting him in ugly just because I think in a 2-list format, you're going to take a Howland 9 activation kind of list as one of your lists, and you're going to take an aggressive Greatjon or Eddard, and that means that Robb Stark is maybe your 4th list choice, right? So unless you have some big brain 5D chess ability to outmaneuver people, I think you're going to rely probably Greatjon or Eddard more.
Someone said you can bring Robb NCU.
No, you can't. Yes, you can, but you don't because he has outflank.
You can. It's not complete trash, right? It's not complete and utter trash. It's not good. It's not good. This is actually
a very interesting case where the dog is actually not that bad. Disrupt is a good ability.
Yeah.
It's the baggage. It's the baggage that the dog comes with.
The opportunity cost is too high.
Robb Stark NCU, unfortunately, the Stark NCUs are loaded. There's a lot of good Stark NCUs, and there's Peter Baelish. Between Caitlyn, Sansa, Arya, Lyanna, you don't even need Baelish. You have a great Stark lineup. To pay, is Robb King of the North 5 points?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. Very hard.
And it just and it literally doesn't work against some stuff, which, you can't play it against a Lannister player necessarily that easily. It makes it very hard to play against, Rip against a Targ player. It just has some nasty counters. And against Cav, bringing that unit on, it's like, hey, I'm behind you now. And I just go, right, well, I'll turn around and charge you then. And that whole thing that you did of that whole time to try and get behind me and out position, I don't care. So, yeah. All right then. Summer.
Summerlicious.
I'm just gonna go straight to his last Bran's Protector, where he gets to make the free charge and attack. It does happen, but I've already said straight away that I don't particularly like that ability. Right? I don't think that those style abilities are good, and because he's not Bran's vassal, he can't attack anyone that attacks him. He's not Adam Marbrand in wolf form. Yeah, I don't know. It's not ugly. Bran and Hodor for 1 point is not a terrible attachment for the auto wound and the auto 6 on the retreat. Like that isn't garbage. It's just at the point that we're talking now, it's like the third, maybe it's the second at your commander. You've got Rickon Osher, and then you've got Bran Hodor, and that's not including that you might want some Mormont vets in there. The problem is if you're talking about the third or fourth choice of attachment, you're saying you've got 3 or 4 infantry units in the list. You're running out of space for attachments by the time you're taking Bran and Hodor, and you haven't even got cavalry in the list yet. Like, the only list I see Bran and Hodor making is the 9 activation style Stark lists.
But to that point,
yeah,
are we not in agreement that that is probably going to be your second list, and therefore he's shockingly going to see play?
Yep.
And this is, I mean, if that's the case, isn't this a crazy situation where Summer is probably a worse dog rules-wise than Greywind, but the baggage and the context pushes them around and flip-flops them?
I would say so. I would say that Summer actually hits in the second place. I think you're more likely to see Summer. And I think that Summer is better. I think Summer will appear in better lists.
Right.
Which is nuts.
Yeah, because if you could just take any dog, you would definitely take Ghost, Shaggy Dog first, for sure. Their raw stats and rules are sufficient.
Yeah.
But the last two, Greywind is arguably just better. But yeah, the context, it really matters here.
Peter's also saying, chat, that Bran and Hodor and Loyalists are amazing. Yeah, this is the thing, like, +1 wound and having precision and things like this is like, that's nothing to meme at, and if you're running quite a low quality list, if you're running like lots of 5 and 6 point units, like most, like all of a sudden Bran Hodor actually have very good value because being able to push through damage regardless onto anything, giants all the way through to Champions of the Stag, whatever. That's just value. So yeah.
Very interesting.
That 9 act list though isn't all that great. I don't know, man. I really like the 9 activation Eddard. 9 activation Eddard is nasty. Still get Eddard's honor guard. You still get all the Eddard stuff. Walk around slapping people left, right, and silly.
Yeah.
It's also designed to go against free folk specifically. So.
Yep.
So. Free folk. We've got all the free folk stuff. Now.
Yes.
I'm going to go through this actually surprisingly quickly. Varamir, up first.
Ooh, yeah. Where does he go? So he's good?
He's better than Jorah, I think.
So we're talking as the non-commander combat unit. He's like Shaggy, but he also enables other cheap activations, right? So the question is he better or worse than Shaggy in the context of the Free Folk army, I guess?
I think he's worse than Shaggy because I think Varamir will appear in less. I think Shaggy appears in a stupid number of Stark lists. I mean, let's have a look at this quickly in comparison. Now, I know we can't really look at Varamir's stats because Varamir's only been out for like a couple of weeks. So getting good data on this would not be viable.
I think it's a very good point. Shaggy is almost an auto-include in every Stark list. Almost.
I mean, his pick rate is circa 50%. Call it 40% on average.
Low.
48%. He's in literally half of Stark lists though. Like,
I thought it'd be more.
yeah, I mean, I also thought it would be more, but that's still a lot. That is still a hell of a lot of lists. Yeah, I think that Shaggy is probably better than Varamir and appears in more lists.
Yeah, that makes sense. But does Varamir appear more than Jorah?
I don't know if he appears more, but I think
more valuable than Jorah?
I think what he offers the list that he's in is better. At that point, he's Jorah's appearing less, but I think Shaggy is higher impact than Jorah. I think Varamir appears less, but is higher impact than Jorah as well.
Interesting. I mean, I would ask, doesn't Varamir really do what free folk already do and provide you more activations? Does he really provide you a tool you don't already have?
Yeah. Got 3+ armor save. Like, free folk don't have 3+ armor saves outside of 1/1. That is not something to be like.
With that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't have token play, vulnerable sundering when you charge this thing, it's just Shaggy Dog, but with more likely to survive the hit, and then it just wrecks you on the return. Yeah. Plus, not like it matters, he is slower, but he comes with his random eagle that gives him 2-inch shifts all the time, which it equates to be about a 2-inch shift once per round. You might get 2 out of it. Unlikely. But moving straight on to the wolf pack. Oh man. What do you think, the wolf pack?
If Varamir's good, don't you have to put both his animals in that same bracket as well?
No, because you have to take Varamir to take these. You can take Varamir without having to take these guys, right?
Does that happen? I don't. I here's where I have to admit I'm a little out of touch. I've been painting and organizing more than playing. What's your experience? Do you actually build a list without these cheap activations? Like, isn't this the point?
Yeah, you build a list without the cheap activations and just Varamir, because the thing is, if you're playing non-commander Varamir, right, you play 3, then you play 3, then you play 2, and you get 3 activations for 8. Okay? Well, the thing is, free folk at 8 points are normally buying 2 activations. So you're saying the normal list that you run, you replace 2 raiders with raid leaders, say, for argument's sake. 2 of them, or a chariot and a raider unit, they come out for these 3 beasts. So you've raised your activation numbers by 1, but what have you lost in doing so?
Bodies, hearts, wounds.
Yeah, a lot. And I do mean a lot. You've lost 24 wounds for these 3 models. They don't come back. Some of them can't even control objectives. In my opinion, they're not significantly better. I think Varamir alone at 3 points breaks this kind of like barrier that free folk were at, where they couldn't have a 3-point activation. The moment you give them that 3-point activation, it allows a teched 10 list, and allowing a teched 10 list is more important than allowing some kind of janky 11 list.
That's pretty cool. I never thought about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you shave a point off, and that lets you add a point to something and make it better.
Yeah, that's why I always prefer the 9 activation list for Mance myself. Although I do think the 10 activation list is probably very good in Mance, but I preferred the 9 because the tech it bought me had value and had use. I run the 10 activation variant without Varamir. I lose the tech, and I've just got like couple of chariots, couple of trappers, couple of raiders, raid leaders, whatever, NCUs, and I'm just kind of like, cool, you know what all my stuff does? You don't have to really play around anything except tactics cards. The moment I introduce, like, right, I've got a unit of Fens with Harmer in them, I can reposition 12 inches wherever I want. You agree? I can reposition 14 inches wherever I want. And then I'm going to taunt you. I now have a control aspect I've introduced for 3 points. I've got Torment for Warcry. Warcry is really good. It's now making my unit 3 morale. That tech, I believe, is worth it for losing the activation. Because most of what I'm fighting into is either 8 or 9 activations anyway. I don't need that 10th activation to generate the value. I'm generating the value elsewhere.
Got it.
That's my opinion. But a 10 activation Mance is probably better, right? Probably.
Right. So in that context, does that mean that if you take combat unit Varamir, would you say his pets are actually ugly?
Yeah.
Like you're actually weakening your army?
I believe so. And I've done that. I tried it with Mag, and I had a ridiculous game, and I rolled lots of 6s for charges when I needed 6s for charges with a Mag list. And I still lost, and part of that was to do some misplays and stuff, and I got one shot. Mag got one shot by something, which was hilarious. But I also sit there and go, those animals didn't really bring me anything. They weren't that useful. They just kind of got killed. And they had to be in the fight to be useful for the list to work. Nah, not sure.
Do you adjust their position based on the fact that they must be taken with Commander Varamir?
So Commander Varamir is a different matter. You get the 3 activations for 5 points, and that's kind of fucking dumb. Like, it is dumb.
Right.
That will win games.
We almost need duplicates of these cards, like the Commander Association and like the.
I'm gonna put them both. I'm gonna put them both in the middle, right? I'm putting them in the middle because they're not bad. Like, they're not actually bad, but I wouldn't say that they're amazing. Like, with the Commander, they're very good. You're losing a lot with the Commander, like I was saying before, but like 3 activations for 5 points. Like, if I just came and said, if you were just on the street one day and I said, "Do you want 3 activations for 5 points?" I'm 90% sure any song player on the world would go, "Yeah, that sounds pretty good." That will win games. Like, I'm not even joking, right? That list building option will win games.
Yeah.
But the rest is superfluous. I don't think it works at higher end play, personally. I don't think it really gets you out much. But I think it will work flat out for average player. And that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So, like, it's almost like, again, context matters.
Yeah.
Commander version, pretty good.
Yeah.
Attachment version or combat unit version, not so much. Very cool.
And then we've got Brock Spore.
I've never seen this thing in action. Because it has to activate with Barak, I'm going to say it's probably bad. You're paying 2 points for a blocker, but you can probably spend those 2 points better on anything else. You know, getting Harma, getting Torment.
I'll tell you what the problem is now, is that in what world do I build a list and have 2 points left over and think, you know what the best option for me to do with these 2 points is to take Barock's Ball?
Right.
That's the problem, is that, like, at the point where I have 2 points left over, I'm usually looking at, can I just upgrade the unit of Raiders, say, that Barock's in, to a unit of Thens? That's not a terrible option for those 2 points.
Yep. Thens with an attachment, right?
Yeah, Thens with an attachment. What's wrong with that? It doesn't bring you an activation. It's, what is it, 3 wounds or whatever it is, and it's heal 1 whenever it makes an attack is a bit of a joke.
Don't even know.
Like, you know what it is? It's old Skin Changer Bears with a cav move, but it's now costing you points to take it in the list.
Right. Yeah.
I used to take Skin Changer Bears because they were free.
Yeah.
You don't pay 2 points for a Skin Changer Bear.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And they were 1 point back in the day, right? Skin Changers?
Yeah. And actually, I've played the boar. I quite like the boar. The boar's not good. All right then.
Okay.
Are we happy with that?
That was pretty good to me, and that was a very interesting discussion. You know, I learned a lot about combat unit Varamir. I would have thought that his pets are like auto includes, but what you say makes sense. You're sacrificing a 12 wound tray with a handful of wounds that don't score objectives.
Yeah,
cool.
Again, that middle tier is stuff that you expect to see play, but it's in a list for a reason. I don't think it just makes basically any list. I do believe that Varamir is the new release. probably makes a good proportion of good free vote lists. Yeah. All right, let's save that there. Oh, hey, there we go. I'll download that for future reference so I can share them on Facebook, like all those Facebook posts I do every week. Should we move on to some tier 4 stuff?
Absolutely.
By the way, guys, we are going to share the link to do this in the chat,
somewhere
in the description of the video below at the end of the thing. So if you want to send me pictures of your tiers that you've made, just literally make them, save them, download them, send them to me as an image on Discord. That's absolutely fine. I will look through them, and maybe next week I will actually see how me and Ariakas compared with the community's consensus on this.
Yeah.
So they will be shared at the end of the video. All right then. So 4-point units. I see that Mikkel popped up in chat and said, "Where are drowned men?" Drowned men? They're just here, just above Ariakas' lovely head. So, we'll start off with the continuation of a theme that we started in point 1. Night's Watch, Coldhands. Do we need to have a discussion about him?
Nope. Especially with the FAQ. Yep. I mean, even before the FAQ, he was still good. But with the FAQ, he's definitely a very solid choice. I think he's... I was going to say, is he auto-include? What do you think? I think Brett would say he's auto-include.
So, my opinion, I don't know if he is or not. I don't think he is. But let's put it like this. The discussion that Night's Watch players have been having have been having, do I take a third NCU or do I take Coldhands? And I believe that if that is the discussion that a player is having, then he is nearing auto-include. Yeah.
Yep. I was not aware of this combo until like a month ago, but I didn't know about the whole Now's Watch has ended, Stand United Brothers, sack Coldhands, trigger Now's Watch has ended, then activate your unit of hunters and get the whole wombo combo off. You get 3 rounds of attacks. Yes, you lost an activation, but he's going to come back next turn, and that tempo swing of killing an enemy combat unit is absolutely massive. So that is the big Coldhands, I think, like value, in my opinion. I mean, everything else he does, being full activation, the flock of seagulls or whatever they're called, is great too. But I think it's that combo that pushes him to the top.
I have PTSD. I played against Elite Teddy, right? He brought Coldhands on, and Coldhands charged my unit in the flank, and maybe take a rank off it or something. I can't remember, but he ended up over the token in honed and ready. And at the end of the round, the wall shot Coldhands. Coldhand died. And I'm not even joking. At the end of the round, Elite Teddy, Now's Watch has ended, killed a unit and repositioned and opened and killed another unit because of that reposition that he was allowed to do. And I'm just sat here being like, I didn't do anything. I didn't even kill you. You killed yourself without a card. You scored a victory point while doing it. And then you've just killed my unit in the end phase. Why is this a thing? Oh, I was so, not annoyed at him, but I'm annoyed at, why is that in the game? Why have you got this thing at the end of the round? All these effects happen and then the round ends. And you go, no, at the end of the round, I basically get to activate a unit. Fuck you.
And then Poland just rolls in next round again. Hey, what's up?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's the end of the round, and then not even 2 seconds later in game time, he's just there again. Oh, hey guys, did something go on? Did someone die? Did something happen? Hey, I saw there's some guys here earlier. They're dead now.
Yeah.
Oh, that was aggravating. That was very aggravating. Again, nothing against Chris, but Jesus Christ, that shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah, he's really glued, really good. Near auto include for sure.
Yep. Yeah. All right then. So drowned men up next. We'll do Greyjoys next, right? We'll do the Greyjoy package. Actually, let's start with Bowman. I think start with Bowman because I think Bowman are fairly straightforward. Do you expect to see a Greyjoy list without Bowman in it?
No. They're always that is legit auto include. I'd say in every Greyjoy army, you're always going to see one, if not two, Bowman.
Yeah, and I think they're worth it.
And yeah, I mean, I assume we're talking into the what's the word, echo chamber of players who know what it's all about. But I guess for completeness sake, Bowman are great. I think point per damage, they're one of the most efficient damage dealing units in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then they enable pillage tokens without needing Eric Ironmaker. Their ability to get finger dance and really lay on some damage just with a card, early game is amazing. If they get into the flank, they are hitting as hard as a 6-7 point unit sometimes. So they're quite amazing. And they're durable. Why do they have 5+ armor for 4 points? Why?
It's nuts, isn't it? The morale is their biggest weakness. The 8+ is a big weakness, but everything else is really good for them.
I don't remember on their second rank, Mickey. Do they still shoot 6 dice on second rank?
Yeah, 6/6/4.
So people just peel off wounds with rating call as well and don't even care. Yeah, they're great.
You know what else really annoys me, and it really does actually massively annoy me. They hit on 4s in melee. Like, I'm not saying that they need a nerf. Greyjoys need all the help they can freaking get, right? But like, why? Why does Stark Bowman at 6 hit on 5s? Like,
the Lightbringers hit on 5s too.
Do they? Oh god! Like that's the thing. Like Greyjoy Bowman are not too strong, right? They aren't too strong. They're a good unit. They're by no means too strong, and the faction really doesn't do anything to support them much. But they are a good unit. If you gave me this in Free Folk, if you gave this in Baratheon, if you gave this in basically every other faction in the game, it would see play in that faction. Partially because it's 4 points.
4 point long range unit.
But yeah,
pretty good.
Yeah, this is very good. The same could not be said though of Greyjoy Trappers. I think Greyjoy Trappers suck.
This is a tough one because again, context, right?
Greyjoy.
Again, I could yep.
Greyjoy Trappers with Asher. Yeah, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. Greyjoy Trappers without Asher, they're pretty shit.
Okay, so question. Why do people consistently put Asha in Trappers and not other units? I mean, I have seen her in other units as well, but most of the time it's Trappers. So that's got to say something about Trappers, right? Why Trappers?
Because it shores up the 1 weakness they have, right? The morale on 8 is a bad morale stat, very bad morale stat in the game. Basically, the worst you can get. There's nothing on 9. And so you just die to panic texts, the various different types. You make them 5, all of a sudden you make them more sturdy. And the moment they go to 5 as well, it enables Blind Baron. Blind Baron comes down, and all of a sudden you're taking half those hits. Your armor 6, kind of irrelevant if the maximum damage that someone's going to roll is like 6 or 7 with most attacks in the game. That's 3 wounds. Because you probably won't save any. And then as a result, you're like sitting there and like, I took less than a rank, and I'm doing a 5+ save or a 4+ save. There's a weirwood nearby. If you're making a 4 to 5 point unit take less than a rank of damage off stuff like any 6 or 7 point unit attacking them, that's a good value.
So I guess to your point then, you almost never see naked Trappers. You only ever see Trappers with Asha. But yes. I swear I've gone through your history before, Mickey, and I saw a crazy 4-point activation spam list from you from Greyjoys where you ran several. I don't know how that game went.
Yes, I guess I'll just run whatever though, right? I will run Trappers naked all day, as will other players. Mikkel will run them with like an Asher commander. Carlo runs them in a weird Trapper/Bowman combo list. With Euron going to counter Free Folk. I I don't think trappers are terrible. The problem is trappers will die. Trappers will get melted by ranged attacks.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing that people... this is just a personal thing. Like, people think I'm crazy when I'm saying Baratheon should run double Lightbringer lists and stuff like this. Like, I see so many people saying, but no, but, whatever. Infantry just sucks in this game right now. Avoid infantry where you can. Run archers. Because unless you're an infantry unit that can survive charges from cav, like flayed men, then there's no point. You've got to be fast enough that you can move and close down with archers, otherwise there's no point. So you might as well just be cavalry or just be archers. Or be Queen's Men, who enable the archers and are tanky as all hell. Or Warrior Sons with like double hardened and things like this. Like, those things have value because they're infantry units that are nigh unkillable. The infantry units like wardens, like lone naked wardens, is just asking to get butchered alive. And trappers fall into that category, unfortunately. 4-point unit that's just asking to go and get killed. Yeah. Not sold.
That's a tough one. So it's weird because I don't think you often see naked trappers, but you'll almost always see in one list Asha trappers.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
I'm gonna rate it. I'm gonna rate it bad in the middle. I think they are useful. I think they do see play.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah.
Again, almost need to have like a second card, like with Asha attachment.
Yeah.
And that should be in the 5-point category.
Yeah. And then it moves us on to Drowned Men.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say ugly.
Oh, there's a problem with these guys in that I don't think they're trash.
All right, so here's my arguments for ugly, and then let's hear the rebuttal. So they're 4 points, which means that they could be bowmen.
Yes.
Right? What do they provide you? Do they provide you with something that Greyjoys don't already get? So they give you like healing or rerolls, and I don't think they provide anything significantly unique. I think there's lots of healing in Greyjoys, and I think that the rerolls is kind of like a finger dance almost. So I don't know if they provide enough utility to warrant on a list.
They are outside of Baron coming down on like an Asher unit, right? Like 5 morale, 4 morale unit, like whatever. I think Drowned Men are a 4-point unit that's worthy to be a charge blocker. And as Gypsy says there, bowed them down, Tully Cavalier for the entire game. Yeah, I ran a unit into Euron Blackguard when I played against, I played a Greyjoy Mirror, and I ran a unit of Drowned Men into Euron Blackguards and just stood there the whole game being like, well, you're going to attack me, and you're probably going to miss most of your hits, and if I fail the test, it's only 1 wound. And then I'll just heal 2, and I'll attack you back. Cool. I probably did fuck all. Like, I'm not designed here to hurt you. I'm designed to hold you up. While my bowmen, literally less than an inch away from me, behind me, are just going, oh, I'll shoot that, I'll shoot that. Oh, look, I can't get charged because there's your own unit in the way. I'll just shoot that thing over there, I'll shoot that over there. I think that has value. There's very little in Greyjoys that can really do that in the same way. That doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think it's pretty niche.
Yeah. 4-point giant, basically. 4-point giant without the damage output. I'm going to throw it into situational, but I'm really tempted to put it down in here. But I do think that they're here, just about. They're probably like this end of here.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's blurry enough that it's either the top end of ugly or the bottom end of bad.
Yeah. Depending on where we get to with bad, they might get demoted later on. All right then. I'll leave this one. This is your wheelhouse, right? We were talking about this before the stream, I think, a little bit, and discussing it in your game as well. Dragonstone Nobles.
This is a similar one, I think. I think he's either low end of good or high end of situational. So I like it because he is. First of all, he's a 4-point activation. Baratheons, that has value. I definitely think about, the standard way I think of lists is like 5-point units, 3 flex points. Oh, I can downgrade my warden to a Dragonstone Noble and have an extra flex point to get, Lightbringer's chance, whatever. And that is really good. But I've learned, I guess, over time that despite his 2+ save and his 3+ morale, sometimes he just dies. He just, takes 1 wound and then a vicious panic test later, he's dead. You spike 1s and he's gone. Or a vulnerable token or sundering, he can just die. So he often does not sit on the front line at all and just lurks in the back. Sometimes that Sentinel comes into play and does cool things, but he's really just, most part, a 4-point activation because he is really that fragile. But yeah, I think, having talked it out, I would put him in good. I would put him in good because he's still a fairly reliable 4-point activation, but he might be on the low end. What do you think?
I think with the rise of Cots, with the buff that Cots got in season 1, and where Baratheons are with Queen's Men, and the kind of reliability that Queen's Men give you, I actually think that Dragonstone Nobles have dropped. I think it's probably, and it sounds really mental, I think it's probably a mistake for Baratheons to try and play this activation game that a lot of the other factions are playing, right? And I believe that if we look at the stats, they are exceedingly doing better in the 7-4-3 at a comparable rate that they're doing in the 8-5-3 in terms of win rate.
This is very interesting.
So at that point, it's comparable, right? It's within 0.15%. At that point, if they're giving up on the activation game, I think Baratheon Dragonstone Nobles just aren't quite good enough.
Yeah, I am a huge proponent of more activations is better. I've recently started playing with that triple Queensman list and trying it out at 6 activations. I'm shocked at how well it stands up. So I can't believe I'm agreeing that less activations might be better for Baratheons. So maybe that value, the 4-point activation value, is not there.
The 5-3, it's worth remembering the 5-3 is still going to work. But I think when we're looking at 5-3, we're typically talking Renly side, running kind of like a couple of wardens or pikemen and some Highgarden pikes, maybe or cots. The 6 and 7 activation lists, we've seen Stannis run them loads, we've seen the other ones run them loads. Yeah, for me, the DSM just doesn't quite make the cut anymore. And I don't think that's the DSM being bad. It's just there's a better stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna move it down. Sorry.
I think it's fair. High end of good, low end of bad. High end of good, bad. High end of situational, low end of good.
It's nearly good.
It's completely fair.
It's nearly good.
Yeah, completely fair, I think. Yeah.
Should we do Free Folk?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll do Raiders first.
Oh my gosh.
Right, well that was easy. Cool. We'll do Chariots next. Oh, that was easy. And we'll do Trappers. Hang on. Oh, that was easy. Right. Okay, cool.
Okay, so this is your chance to wax lyrical about the Free Folk, and I would be interested to ask you: are they equally good? Is there an order?
There is an order. So the problem is when you're talking Mance, like I have the Mance list ingrained in my skull, right? This took a lot of play. Not a lot of play, I shouldn't say that, but a lot of thought to kind of come up with the list in the way that it works. But like, if you're running Mance, I don't want to waste the insignificant point on the raiders by putting Mance in them, and I don't want to waste that insignificant point by picking up Harmer's Bannerman in the unit specifically, which is something that I did think about a lot, given that I like the inclusion of Harmer. Then, therefore, spending that insignificant point on the Bannerman was a choice, was a decision that I had to actively say why it would be good or bad. I decided against it because I wanted to gain another unit of trappers, and I believe that trappers are very useful. I believe that ranged attacks are better than melee attacks, and I believe that taking another unit of raiders in space of that trapper unit that Mance normally sits in is playing into this idea that melee attacks are good and melee attacks are not good, melee attacks are bad, therefore run trappers don't have the temptation of this melee attack unless I desperately need it. That was my logic there. As a result, trappers are nearly always the first thing in with a Mance list. Second thing in, I'm looking at, I need raiders. I want to run raiders specifically with Tormund. That is the next thing in the list. I think that package for 5, a bit like the Asher Trapper package, I think that package for 5 is one of the best combinations in the game, and it synergizes really well with Mance. Specifically Mance, it raises that 5-point package to like equivalent 6 or 7 points worth of value. That's fucking nuts. Therefore, Raiders are the next thing in the list. I'm then looking at a Chariot, because I believe Chariots are probably too good for 4 points. They have weaknesses, they have ways to catch them out, but anything that can just come in and just absolutely massacre things on 4-point unit with a cav moves at 6, yeah, is good. So those are your first 3, and ironically, I've covered all 3 of the first of them. That's the problem. Then after that, it's suit the list, literally build the list to suit. You've spent, I assume you spent 12 points on NCUs. You've then spent 13 points there, so you spent 25 points. I then say to you, you've got 15 points left to build the rest of your list. In some scenarios with other commanders, trappers are probably the first thing to come out. Hence the reason they're on the bottom of the list. Even then, I think trappers have value as a one-of, rather than of a multiple inclusion that you see chariots and raiders in. That would be my logic in how I'd rate them.
Sorry, so in the row then, I got a bit confused. Is trappers first, but then the first things you cut multiples of is what you're trying to say?
Yes, it's the first one I'd cut multiples of.
Okay.
Outside of Mance. I think it's important to say outside of Mance. Inside Mance, I think they're running massive, straight away. Move outside of Mance, and I think that they're the only unit that drops in value outside of Mance.
So literally, you'd say trappers must have, then raiders, one chariot probably, third
maybe
in
2,
line. Yeah. How do these compare to Coldhands?
Coldhands is better. Coldhands is better because, and this is actually quite important, Coldhands is better because Coldhand enables Night's Watch builds that are good. Chariots are very good. Raiders are very good. Trappers are very good. Not arguing there. I think Hidden Traps, by the way, is one of the best abilities in the game. But while I think that they are all very good, they're not really enablers, so much as they're all enablers because the free folk standard of infantry is 4 or 5 points, whereas, Night's Watch don't have options at 3 really outside Ghost. They don't have options at 4 really outside Coldhands or NCUs. At 5 they now have conscripts, right? If conscripts were still around at 4, we'd be saying conscripts are up here and they're crazy good. But they're not. None of that free folk stuff is build enablers. Raiders are the core staple of lists. Trappers give you some support, and the chariots are now alpha damage at that 4-point unit category. And Soren says,
I would definitely rank all these things above Greyjoy Bowman.
Yeah, potentially. I don't know. I think Greyjoy Bowmen have a bigger place because I think Greyjoy Bowmen appear in every list that Greyjoy run. Mm-hmm. I don't think Trappers do. And the difference we're seeing there is that Free Folk are just better than Greyjoys as a faction.
True.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lannisters. Now you're a bit of a Lannister dabbler, and well, I say dabbler. You play against Richard a lot, right?
Yes. Yes.
He's known a little bit for dabbling in the old Lannister.
Yep. Lord Tywin himself. Yep.
So yeah, go on. If you were Endline, if you were Richard, how would you rate these two bad boys?
Okay, I think the easier one to rate are the Poor Fellows. So the Poor Fellows, I think, now fall under the bad/situational umbrella. Despite being a 4-point activation, they are a distinct weak link in the Lannister battle line. They can just die. They can just die now to a double attack. It's really not that hard to push through the 12 to 14 wounds with their 6+ morale. And but they're still 4 points, so I don't think they're in the bad category. And as we talked about with Dragonstone Noble and with Found That Rides, it shaves you off a flex point to upgrade an NCU, to upgrade a unit of Cav, for example. So I think for me, they would sit in that situational category.
They are unfortunate. I probably think they're probably the best unit that we've talked about here, but they're the best. They're a good unit. Like, again, we could sit them here. They're a good unit because they're 4 points. That's why they're good. It's got nothing to do with that unit actually being good. It's just because it's a 4-point unit, and 4-point units, as we've discussed before, are build enablers. I've downgraded the Drowned Men, by the way. I've decided that they're going to downgrade it. They're ugly. Because they are. They're ugly. They look bad. The art's bad on them. There we go. That's why they're ugly. And yeah, and Evil Sponge is right. When it comes to Lannisters, beggars can't be choosers. Which is true.
Yep.
You literally,
Apropos.
So, with that in mind, are we happy with Poor Fellows in this kind of like middle category?
I am, for sure. And now the really hard one for me is Mountain. So I was going to say, to me, I go back and forth. On one hand, he's kind of like a Dragonstone Noble, kind of like Poor Fellows.
Yep.
Sometimes he just dies, and it's terrible. But he adds Intimidating Presence for 4 points. He adds this pretty much guaranteed damage. So, yeah, he's probably in the low end of good.
I think, personally, that Gregor's probably the first 4 points you spend in a Lannister list. And then you debate. Like, that's before you even know what the list is. You probably just say, right, I'll put Gregor in. And then later on, you may make the decision to take Gregor out to replace it with a Poor Fellow unit. Because you need the Poor Fellows for like an attachment or a very specific reason in the list. Like, you don't want to play into anything that's going to harm solos, or is very good at killing something like the Mountain, and the moment you decide that, then the Mountain comes out. But I think that the Mountain is good enough that it appears in as the first unit in a Lannister list probably every single time.
Yeah, I can totally see that. The thing about, if I saw the Mountain across from me, I'd be like, I have to get lucky to kill him, essentially. Poor Fellows, with their wider frontage, you can get to them eventually. They're harder to hide. Mountain, not so much, right? So I think he's better than them. And yeah, he does add a lot of value. The Nora Saves and Intimidating Presence is really good for 4 points.
Now, actually, interestingly, if we were just to cut this down to units, Raiders, best unit in the game currently. Let's see, next up on the line, Frozen Shore Chariots. Discuss that one. Clegane, the Mountain that Rides, is in at number 7 of combat units. So yeah, it's pretty damn good. And Coldhands is just behind him.
Wow, interesting.
So these are all good. Shaggy's up there as the best low point unit, although some of them haven't had enough play. Trappers, the lowest of the 3 free folks, forwards, which I can see. And then we're dropping down into the other stuff,
Right.
But they're all
still possibly, though.
Yeah. Ironborn Bowmen. For a faction that's absolutely sinking, Ironborn Bowmen are the 25th best unit in the game.
Pretty good.
They're pretty damn good.
Yeah. Upper crust.
Trappers are up there, to be fair. Well,
That surprises me. Yeah.
drowned men are up there as well. I don't believe that for 1 minute.
I disagree with the stats.
I disagree with the stats. That doesn't mean I'm right. It means the stats are, well, the stats aren't right. The stats are telling me something. I just don't know what they're telling me. They're better than I think. That's mostly what it's telling me. I think they're bad. I'm right. I can't possibly be wrong. I'm 100% wrong. So yeah. There's our 4-point list. There's a lot of good ones up there.
Yeah, man, I'd be interested to make a tally of like where a faction's units sit, and like, I mean, that'd be cool. I mean, of course, it's our opinion, but it'd be cool to see where we landed on like which faction, where your faction's units sit.
So if we did 6-point units, 7-point units, 8-point units, and I think it would be interesting because I think a lot of these units would start to drop down into these later categories as you go to higher points values.
True. Yeah, and in fact, the next category is, first one that might be all over the place.
Yeah. So let's have that one there. There we go. There's another one, and we'll go on to 5 points.
Ooh.
Dun 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 dun. So,
Oh boy.
Ikariba.
As we close in on 4:00, yeah. Or,
there's a lot of units here. Some of them are hidden, and there are some real peaches in here, and there is some true pièce de résistance pieces of trash. So, I think we have to go and do the first one first. It is the Scorpion. It's the Night's Watch in at number 1 with the Scorpion. Good, bad, ugly.
Unfortunately, ugly.
I would tend to agree.
Yeah, it's 5 points. They can't make it 4 points, but it's especially with Othel being nerfed, it just doesn't provide reliable damage, and it's a bit of a sore thumb in that it can just get charged and killed relatively easily. It's almost
The problem I have with the Builder Scorpion is you can make the Builder Scorpion list a nightmare to have to play into. You've got builders, you've got stakes on this thing, you've got Othel Commander and things like this. You can make this list like awfully difficult to play into, get rid of, and things like that. And cavalry lists everywhere start to go, shit, that's a problem. And your list just sucks into anything that isn't cavalry. Like, just straight up sucks. And you just kind of gone, oh, well, I'm facing something that my Scorpions aren't very good at. And you're like, well, that's the whole point of the 2-list format. But, like, not even that good against, like, Baratheons, which is the supposed, like, champions of the stag. This thing counters champions of the stag. It doesn't really. It might do alone. It's not countering the Lightbringers.
The tricky part is, at 5 points, it's actually like a weird way of building a Night's Watch list, which typically has like 7 points, 3 points, or cheap things. So 5 points is a weird spot where it just eats up an activation, and it's actually tough to build around. It on its own doesn't look bad until you make a list and you're like, oh, I've got an awkward amount of points left over.
Yeah. You have to run this really janky, like, conscript and Scorpion crew kind of build. Yeah.
It's not the worst thing in the world. I've definitely seen games where it's nestled in between 2 units. Someone charges in, doesn't kill off whatever they charge, and the Scorpion just shoots into combat and plinks off 4 wounds with a vicious panic test. I have seen it do wonders, but it's just hard to use properly. Because what if your opponent doesn't charge? What if your opponent doesn't, has his eyes open and understands what the Scorpion can do?
I used a 7 activation Stark cavalry list. Maybe it was a 6 activation, I can't remember. And I really struggled into like an 8 activation Night's Watch Scorpion list. But I mean, I'm struggling because he's got more activations than me. That's mostly why the problem is. Like, not because of the Scorpions per se. It was just annoying.
If you're ever playing against a Scorpion, just read its rules, make sure you know how it works, and then you won't get caught by its 360, no scope, no line of sight needed to shoot. Yeah.
Just like, over that, bang! Got him.
Yeah. So yeah. That's the only way it works is if people don't know how it works properly, but if you know, you can definitely play around it.
And if you're Michael Chanel, not only does the Scorpion do that just all the time, but Scorpion does that on your turn as well. It goes, oh, Overwatch, bang, killed him. Right, I'm back over here now. And you go, what the fuck was that about? And you go, well, yeah, that was just a really dumb mechanic change that we totally ruled against what is written down on some cards, but because we like the interaction. Yes. We'll cover conscripts next, because they are Night's Watch as well. I think it makes sense to discuss them. Where are you putting cons? Obviously, we talked very briefly before about unnerved cons. Unnerved cons are one of the best 4-point units in the game, hands down. I think it's kind of crazy that they took the existing cons at 4 and basically made them 5. Yep. And they're still good.
I think they're still good. I was going to say, I don't think they're situational. I think you see cons, they're still supplying things and bolstering up those 7-point units, keeping them healthy. Jon is super popular, so the second he swings, those conscripts come back to heal their friends again. Like, I still think they're good. They do, at 5 points, fit like an awkward points number in the context of Night's Watch, in my opinion, still, but the healing is super annoying, for sure.
Yeah. I do think that they're probably on the lower end of this list, just because I think the Night's Watch builds that are currently good, or the better Night's Watch builds, literally find it hard to fit them in.
Yeah.
But conscripts don't need an improvement, right? This is the thing. Conscripts, you can make conscripts like a little bit better, not much more, but like a little bit better. And I still don't think Night's Watch would take them. And yet they probably won't be one of the better units in the game. Yep. And that's because of what Night's Watch are currently building. And that is a big... I talk a lot with players of the game, and I think that's the biggest issue with Night's Watch list building at the moment, is Night's Watch list building just feels a bit shitty. Like, what you're getting, you're building a good list. You're building a really good list. It just doesn't feel fun to do.
Yeah, there's only so many ways you can dice up Watch Captain plus Unit X plus Coldhands plus 3 NCUs. There's only so many ways to create permutations.
Exactly. Lack of a decent 6-point unit. Ranger Trackers actually being pretty good at 6 now, but a lack of a decent 6-point infantry unit or something just makes life hard. And only one option at 4 for Coldhands. All right then. Should we do Free Folk next?
Sure.
This is actually quite easy. Nobody would be surprised if I put Thens up the top. I think Thens are bloody good. Yeah. And I'm going to eat my words a little bit. Taunt is still a bit of a meme, but Taunt has been doing some solid work against
just cost me game.
Yep. Taunt is doing the job it's supposed to do, which is pull infantry units out of line, and for that I am eternally grateful. Cave Dweller Savages, though.
Ooh.
I don't see them on the board anymore, and I don't plan to. They are, as a free folk player, I think they are trash.
Yeah.
They're comparable with Berserkers. Berserkers aren't good.
But at least Berserkers don't kill themselves.
At least Berserkers don't kill themselves. When I play physically, I play against Carlo. He hasn't played Lannisters for a long time, but he did start 2021 with Lannisters. I played against some other players playing Lannisters, and the most aggravating thing in the world was someone putting a weaken token on these guys, because it just made life a misery. I was like, they're only good for one thing, which is attacking stuff, and they're not even very good at that when you weaken them, because they just kill themselves. I'm sad. Yeah. I also have... Yeah. I'm sorry. I've got one last thing here. Against Martells, I have no desire to play this unit against Martells, because the idea that you could stack these ones do damage on me, kind of bollocks, and I can't even heal my unit up. I'm just literally going to kill myself.
Yeah.
Oh,
their role as a finisher is also just done better by the 4-point chariot.
yes! They're also not that good at finishing things because they hit on 4s, and unless you make them like hit on 3s by removing a rank and having more dice, you're not even that good a finisher because you want to be in the melee to get low to get better at finishing something, but you can't finish it because you've killed yourself. What?
Yeah.
The design's just
Not
a bit
good.
whack.
Yeah.
Follows of Bone, I quite like. I ran Follows of Bone in 2021. They were my second kind of like unit. I quite like Follows of Bone. I actually really do like Follows of Bone as a unit. They suck against ranged, which is a problem for free folk anyway. Yes, and as it is. However, they've actually lost one very important thing nowadays. I used to run them with Harmer in these guys because Therns were shite. They lost the most important thing to me, which was they're not my access to Vicious anymore. The Chariot is my access to Vicious. And as a result, the only real reason I'm looking at this unit is for Horrific Visage. And don't get me wrong, if you've never seen the Styre Commander Rattleshirt Attachment Bone Lord's Chosen meme, it is beautiful to behold. If anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, what you do is you put Rattleshirt in Bone Lord's Chosen with Harmer's Bannerman. You then regroup and reform and put Steer Commander inside Rattleshirt's unit, replacing the Bannerman. And then someone charges you, and they take a Horrific Visage test at -3, minus another 4 for Intimidating Presence, and +1 wound. You get to play like there's too many, and you go, right, well, there's a -7 +4 test before you attack me. So now that you've probably lost a rank, maybe 2 if you got trapped on the way in, after the attack, I may have taken a rank. I've got Iron Resolve. I might not even fail the panic test at this point. You didn't even kill a rank? Great, I'll now Then Supremacy you back it with a -3 +3. Oh, look, your unit's died on its own attack.
Yeah.
Great.
Do you think this unit also lost value because Spearwives got nerfed and lost that coordinated assault, and therefore coordination tactics is not like a wombo combo it used to be?
Yeah. The Spearwife nerf meant that the coordination tactics is less valuable, and other things in the game. You know, we already had Relentless being dangerous and things like this, but there are certain other things in the game that just make those start of turn plays just more predictable. So, like, even if quite literally predictable, if I coordination tactics onto unit Spearwives and Kevin's predictable maneuvers comes out or something, and you're just like, oh, well, you're just going to nominate the unit I've just copied onto and rip. It's not that Follows of Bone are worse. They're not worse. It's just that there are other things in lists that do their job better. And that's sad. It's sad that a unit has got bad by proxy rather than actually being nerfed.
Right. Yeah.
And the last one on the list, Spearwives. Spearwives are still okay. They're still okay. There's a lot of hate.
I almost never see them anymore.
You won't see them. They're worse than Thenns, and they're probably worse than Follows of Bone. The actual biggest killer, in my eyes, they're still probably fine. But they just melt if you attack them. They really just melt. At the same rate as everything else does. So, all you're paying is for that spear and charge. That's not very good. Like, that double attack isn't that good against stuff that you care about killing anymore. Because you're not doing 3 automatic hits. You make people sundering on the vulnerable on the charge, Jesus. But you used to set this combo up with Warcry anyway, with Tormund. So that's not an improvement. You can't run Tormund Commander in them because he makes things vulnerable anyway.
Anyway, yeah.
It's like, I'm not saying they need the auto hits. Don't give them the auto hits back. That's not what I'm saying. But like, they need a different ability to warrant being picked. That's simply it.
You are the free folk king beyond the wall, but I think they're on the high end of ugly, personally.
I see them. They do jobs. They do work. They're not trash against someone who's not running a mounts list, you know, because you can get 2 panic fails and things like this against, you know, free foot mirrors or in other things. But like, yeah, removing the auto hit per rank was a needed change. I don't think Duggars in the LGT will ever let me forget just how salty he was. It LGT or was it Scotland? I can never remember. Not at me, but he was pretty sad when he decided to let my Spearwise charge him in the rear of his red cloaks, and I proceeded to one-shot him. Just bang, 3 auto hits in the rear. Big old panic fail. Take that. Not even with there's too many. Yeah, and Melkor's right. If they didn't double up on Furious Charge, they'd see a lot more play with Tormund Commander. That's literally all they need. Ironically, you could probably take Furious Charge off them, and they'd see more play. And I know that seems like bizarre, but yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Weird. Anyway, should we move on to something that's in Free Folk? So, go on. We'll do Baratheons. We'll do Baratheons because you've been playing some. You play Baratheons, right? So we'll do Baratheons next.
Okay. This is a point where we might disagree, which I think is interesting. I know you just shat on wardens and said they're not very good. I really like them. You know, for 5 points, they do exactly what's on the tin. Now, they're on the low end of the good scale. I think as a 5-point bunker, a wall of meat and steel, you can't ask for much better. 3+ save, 6+ morale, and Counterstrike. You know, Counterstrike, I think people often underestimate as well as how much chip damage it does back. Now, they don't hit hard. They don't hit hard. They're not fast. But as a piece in your battle line to prevent people from encircling you, I think they're awesome for 5 points. But I accept their weaknesses. Weaknesses is that you know, they will not slap back. But again, I normally can rely on them to hold the line and fill that role.
I just have this issue. Like, it's a personal issue. I hate anything that doesn't move. The game is a rank and flank game. The game is entirely about controlling the movement of the game and how to leverage that movement into victory. And Baratheons are literally I got the Baratheon badge, right? I've played Baratheons a fair amount, I'd like to think. They're the antithesis of what I like to play. And I hated it when I played them, actually, because in some ways I liked it, because I was just like, I can just walk forward and I won't just die. But as someone who doesn't play that strategy enough, when I look across the faction and see a unit of wardens move forward, I go, holy shit, I could just kill that. And that might just be me.
Can you 3+ save, 6+ morale? They're not easily killable. I like to believe that anyone who charges into wardens goes, wish me luck, you know, because they're tough. They're hard.
Sure, but you know, I'm not charging wardens with anything that isn't a can opener, right? Sure. I'm looking at your 5-point slow unit and going, where's my expensive unit or my investment worthy unit that sees that and goes, I like some baked beans on my toast. Oh look, there's some cans over there. Let's go and take the lids off. That is, you said it. You opened it up. They do what they said on the can, right? They are a can. And if you go and kick the can, and it's got concrete in it, yeah, you'll hurt your foot. But if you carefully lift up the can to weigh get a value of its weight, and then throw it a freaking mile across a garden wall or into a stream, wardens are going to get wrecked. And that's my issue. Anders,
I was going to say, yep.
Anders and Melkor. Anders has said it right. Chariot go brrr.
I was going to say that maybe
just tokens.
context matters too, in that wardens in Renly with embolden and healing NCUs,
Yes.
different story. In Stannis, when you have men and more use of champions of the stag, maybe they're less good Stannis builds.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see that. I think it goes back to the point that Stannis builds aren't spamming anymore, and 5-point activation, you'd rather just have a better 6-point, 7-point activation instead. I can see that, but maybe they're better in Renly, where the sustainability is even further enhanced and emphasized.
I do see like hardened in the unit of wardens is kind of annoying with Eldon, and among other things, right? It's not the only thing. So as a result, I can see wardens seeing more play in the Renly side. In the Stannis side, like they're probably just a unit that's to cap points, or they're probably just mel fodder. They're not offering you a serious unit that's going to do a big job. Yeah, but they're still good, right? They're not trash. They're not ugly.
Yeah, not ugly. I think maybe low end of good, high end of bad kind of thing. So we can play around with that. Yeah.
And this is the problem I have, right? Because wardens, and I 100% say that this is an issue with the way I view the game, with the way that I think the game should be played, versus what actually works. In that Highgarden Pikemen, I would sit here and comfortably say, without a shadow of a doubt, the Highgarden Pikemen are better than wardens. 100%. Right?
Ooh.
Except Baratheons can't build lists that leverage their advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So you end up having a liability rather than having what I would consider an objective strength. They are better than wardens, except in context where you can't really make them better than wardens. Insert the Riders of Highgarden problem.
Yeah, I was going to say, hard pass for me. That unit is ugly for me. I don't know what they bring to the Renly side. If I want a unit that slaps, I'll pay 1 point more for Riders. I'll pay more points for Rose Knights or Champions of the Stag. This unit does not provide what I want on the Renly side. And they are squishy. Less armor, worse morale. Like I don't see them actually getting a charge off very often, and I'd rather just have wardens if I want to hold the line.
Yeah, and that's the issue. And Daniel in chat saying that they don't get free retreats easily, which they don't. As a result, you're not charging that often, and this is it. They are, by all metrics, a unit that can just walk in and go, right, what do we want to kill? Same as the Riders of Highgarden, but because of activation advantage, they never get that decision. That decision's never theirs to make, and there's no support for them, as Melkor says. So they end up just being kind of units that go, hey guys, we're here to support some Rose Knight grinding.
Yeah.
You killed the Rose Knights? Shit. They are, in my opinion, a better unit point for point. But because you can't leverage any of the abilities and you can't leverage any of that benefit, what is the point?
Yeah.
I hate wardens, and yet they're better. I like pikemen, but they're worse.
So what do you think? I think ugly. What do you think?
They're borderline ugly. I'm going to say ugly. I don't think they have enough support for them. But they are situational. I can see them appearing on one of in Renly lists. And I can actually see them getting play. You'd have to run like an 8 activation Renly list, though, and hope you're playing into another 8 activation list. So, Starks. Yeah, these are your traditional homeboys. Rather than your fake Baratheon homeboys. Mark makes a good point. He likes pikes more after the first unit of wardens. Yeah, maybe. You're going to run that style of list. Crannogman Trackers up first.
Okay, so I'll say what I think about them, and then I'll tell you where I would like to put them.
Yeah.
Hidden Traps is pretty good.
Hidden Traps is pretty good.
Swift Retreat. Is that what they have? Swift Retreat?
Swift Retreat.
Pretty good on a unit that wants to shoot and stay out of combat.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. They are squishy.
They
6+ armor, 7+ morale, very squishy. So I've often thought that maybe I should always run one, because if my Tully Cav want to one-shot something, maybe some chip damage from Hidden Traps would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I can never bring myself to pull the trigger. I always end up taking She-Bears or Shaggy or Stormcrows or something else instead to bolster it. But, I really do like the unit. I think that they offer utility, and they play into, I think, one of your premier units being Tully Cav. So all that said and done, I think they're a staple in the 9 activation list as well. I would put them probably in the high end of situational, personally.
I think they're great. I personally think they're great. I would almost put them here. Like, I agree, they're probably situational. They're probably like, meh, not great. I think they're brilliant. I think they have 6 movement. That's insanely useful. You can't shout that. Like, 6 movement with Hidden Traps. This is everything that I wanted on Trappers. And then you've got an actual range attack with like +1 dice, and you've got Swift Retreat, so I don't have to be engaged, so Hidden Traps always works. I'm looking at this unit and I'm saying, like, literally, this is better than Free Folk Trappers. Which is fair, they should be, they're a point more. And then I go, I don't quite know if they're 1 point better. In isolation, I don't know if they're quite 1 point better. They're nearly 1 point better. But probably not 1 point better. I really like Crannogman Trackers, though. I really do. I think they're really good. I think Hidden Traps is a very good ability.
Very good.
Yeah. However, in the context of Starks, I like Tracker spam.
Take them.
I just like spamming these guys.
Yeah. I'd like to fit them in. But again, I also want my Tully Cav. I also want my She-Bears. I want to find a bunker for Rickon. Is the bunker for Rickon the Hugs?
Yeah, why not? Sod it.
Yeah. So I don't think they're bad. I don't think they're ugly at all. I've said what I wanted to say. They're good, but they're squishy, and they do provide a weak link in your army.
This is... I'm going to say something mental here. This is my favourite 5-point unit in the game. And I do mean that. They're actually my favourite 5-point unit in the game. I don't know if they're the best, but they're my favourite. So, start Sworn Swords then, as a metric to measure them up against.
Yeah, I like them a lot. I don't know what it is. Every time I roll with Stark Sworn Swords, I just seem to roll good. They always get the odd crits. The damage they deal is always shockingly high for 5 points. They start losing ranks. They still deal a consistent amount of damage because of the +1 to hit. All the Stark cards synergize with them. Caitlyn synergizes with them. I really like them. I would definitely put them in the good category. Above Wardens for sure. I don't know about better than conscripts. Probably in the same wavelength. But yeah, I think for a 5-pointer, you can't ask for a much better all-rounder that has teeth and has decent durability.
I agree. Stark Sworn Swords are just a good unit, a good base unit. They're the metric by which I measure things by. Like, right, I take Stark Sworn Swords and says that's kind of what a 5-point unit should be. Is it better or worse than that? And I think Thens are probably better, somewhat different, but probably better. I think conscripts are probably better because of what they offer the rest of the list. I think wardens are comparable. You're right. I think trackers from that they're a tech piece. The trackers, they may be useful. They're bad, but they may be useful.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And
great tech piece.
Yeah. I will, however, say that I will build base lists entirely around Crannogman Trackers because I love them and screw Stark Sworn Swords. But Stark Sworn Swords are good. They're like fine. So that being said, the last one on the list, the Loyalists, the Housecar Stark Loyalists.
It's interesting because they look so similar. I don't rate them because I think critical blow can just lead to such crazy explosive damage. Stark's swords can do magic. You roll 3-4 crits and a unit can just blow up. You'll never get that with Stark Loyalists. Now, having said that, precision is good.
Don't tell me that you can't do this with Stark. Story time. It's a one-off, right? This is 2 weeks ago, Friday. Not last week, week before. Mag the Mighty got charged by Howland in Karstark Loyalists, and they had Lyanna on them. And they walked in, and they slapped old Mag around the face from full health and killed him. I then did the attack back, and I left them on 1 wound. That was like no word of a lie. That is what won my opponent the game. There was a chance I could survive an attack. I had like 2 wounds on a wolf left, and I could have survived an attack from a shaggy dog. Unlikely. But yeah. That literally won in the game. Lyanna with them guys, they get crit blow, they get precision as well. You've got rerolls, you're fishing for 6s. I actually think that the Karstark Loyalists, because of the synergy with Lyanna, who I think is very good, is pretty good. Also, 1 random healing every time you get to make an attack is actually quite nice.
Yeah. I remember the first time I played against them and he healed, I was like, you can do that? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Not bad for 5 points.
Yep. I think they're good.
So what do you think?
I think they're good.
Do you think they're equally good? Because the precision and the crit blow are good in different situations, right? So sometimes that precision's key. But would you say that a majority of the time blows better? So what do you think?
I think I've put them in the bad category, the top end of bad, right? I think what you do is you put Stark Sworn Swords in your list first. Like, again, this is before really understanding what the list is even supposed to be. If you're coming to a list with an idea, then you probably don't put anything first. You have this idea that you're building this different way of building lists. But if you're coming to a list with just kind of like, I want to build a Stark list, here's like my bare bones, you probably put Stark Sworn Swords in there first, and then in, I think, a very good proportion of time, you say, I want a loyalist unit in the list for this reason, and you replace the Stark Sworn Swords for this or that. Is how I see it personally. I do think they are comparable. I think that the Stark Sworn Sword is too easy to pick up first.
Yeah, so I guess you value the crit blow overall over precision.
Yeah.
And do you think, I mean, we've seen so many winning Stark lists now. Funny because we don't often see Sworn Swords even, it seems like. Elite units just kind of edge them out. But do you think you ever see both, or do you choose one or the other?
I think you often choose to. You probably have 2 in the list. There are lists out there that run 3 of these units, but you probably have 2, and you probably go all in on 1. You either go double target. I think you probably actually go single Karstark for those type lists, or you go double Sworn Sword. I don't think you ever go single Sworn Sword. And I am making a bit of an assumption here that like Eddard is Eddard in Honor Guard, which is kind of like a Sworn Sword, but it's not. So like you might see, but I ran a single Sworn Sword, and it's like, no, you didn't. You saw double Sworn Swords. Just one of them's called Eddard's Honor Guard, and you paid an extra point for the defense. Like that's where I kind of sit with it, I think. And people saying they don't get support from the deck, I disagree. How's Karstark Loyalists do get support from the deck? The healing, very useful. And yeah, sure, you don't care that much about the precision. The Sundering, although that's still just as valuable. The big difference is the Vicious card on these guys is nuts. Because you force a Vicious Panic test on anything that's like Wardens. Oh, look at me and my 3+ armor. And I go, okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, the cards definitely synergize. They don't stack keywords, and arguably with precision, the vicious is much better. That's true.
Yeah. But I mean, there are other things that Starks can play with, and I don't disagree that we are talking small margins at this point in terms of where the things lie, and ultimately what you're going to face. Cast-out Loyalists are better against these low wound solo type lists, Mountain that Rides, these kind of things, because they can just force wounds into a unit. Giants, right?
Yeah. And I would prefer Cast-out Loyalists against champs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, champs is a stack. Whereas Starks on Swords of Crit Blow, they're going to mince through chaff much faster. I think it depends what you're facing. I think the Starks on Swords are better. They are better, but don't count the Loyalists out just yet. People saying that the Loyalists want to be on full ranks. They don't really want to be on full ranks. They just sometimes heal upper rank. It's not like they're Stark Sworn Swords. They don't heal a lot. They're talking like 2 or 3 healing a game. Stark Sworn Swords, if they're on their last rank, sure, they have this kind of reroll and +1 to hit. I don't care. You're rolling like 4 dice. Who gives a shit? And if you bring out Caitlyn, it's like, yeah, but you're investing Caitlyn into the unit now, and I knew about that ahead of time, and I'm not going to just mash my head against a brick wall of a hardened unit while you're pretending to be at full ranks, because that's just asking to die anyway. Yeah, I don't know. Might just be me. Greyjoy Reavers.
Ooh, this one is, I think, very contentious. Have they fallen out of vogue? Okay, so
I don't think they're that bad, but yeah. The problem is,
are they the weak link?
They just die.
Right.
Like they should do a lot of damage. They just don't. Like, no.
I feel like not too long ago, Victarion in Reavers was like the staple.
It's still good. That combo for 8 points is still good, right? Because it's 2 activations, which Greyjoy want.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm honestly saying this at this point. If you have the same activation numbers, is Flayed Men better than that 2 activations? Yes. And the answer is probably yes.
Gives you a tool you don't have. And I think, to your point, naked Reavers are almost never seen.
No, it's Victarion Reavers.
Yeah.
Or no Reavers.
It's like the Trapper Asha situation again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just too squishy. 5+ armor, 7+ morale. Like, when the blender's up and running, it can do wondrous things, but it often doesn't get there. It just dies before it can happen.
And like a lot of things in this game, it has no synergy. It has no method, I should say, of generating reliable one-hit potential. You rely on Ironborn Bowmen to make a hole in a unit that's big enough for this guy to come along and punch. The problem is, because he doesn't affect morale stat, like, you're basically saying, I'm going to run in with 7 dice, probably hit 6 times after rerolls or lack of rerolls or whatever it might be, and then I'm hoping, you're sure you're vulnerable with Victarion and all these other things, like, I'm probably going to do like 5-6 wounds maybe. If your armor's good, I might only do like 4 or 5, but then you're not one-shot me anyway. But against the crap stuff, it's like, 5 or 6 wounds through, yes, smashed you in the face. Maybe the bowman set you up with like 2 or 3 wounds before that. And then you go, oh shit, now you've got to fail a panic test. And sometimes I haven't actually even done enough damage for the panic test to kill you. So I'm now relying on my Relentless to kill you. Which, Relentless, the second attack will kill most things. And either that's the turn after, because you can't charge and then Relentless, so you've had to do activation weirdness around that to get that double hit. Or I just retreat with my unit and you go, oh, Relentless, oh, now I'm sad.
Yep.
So against the units where they're the best against, they never get to do what they want to do. And the units where they'll, have a bit more success against, but not be great. So things like wardens, you're not going to force panic fails, which just plays into the whole thing of, oh, pass a panic test with a Baratheon unit, did I? Get fucked.
Conviction, justice.
I healed. Now take some tokens.
Yeah.
Now my turn to attack. Get fucked. Yeah. Yeah, they're just bad. Like, they might be situational, like with the Victarion, but even then, I think they're just bad.
They're a bit of a one-trick pony, right?
Yeah.
They only do one thing. You can see them coming a mile off. They're not real cav because the Relentless is broken up. If you don't know what they do, you can get caught out by a Windermere shift into Relentless, into a Windermere shift into a charge, into a sword. That can happen, but once you've hit by that once, you never fall for that again. And they're squishy. If the first thing I try to kill is that 8-point unit, because then their teeth are gone, their activations are down, and it's really not that hard to kill.
The funny thing is, if you compare, you could say like silence men in the area with these Victarion Reavers in as a reserve, and those two units together can make a mince of things. And I'm like, yeah, sure, but why don't you just put Victarion in the silence men?
Yep,
that does just the job. Right, hitting on 2+ is not that much better than 3+ most of the time. Yeah. Yep. Nope. Big note for me. Not good. Ugly. You'll see one-offs with Victarion, but they're not good. Harakars. I think this is actually quite contentious as well.
I think so too. So I'm going to say right from the get-go, not ugly.
No, not ugly. Not at all.
Not ugly. 5 points for a unit that slaps pretty hard, is pretty good. Don't even look at the outflanking text. It doesn't exist. That adds no value to the unit. 5-point quick activation.
I will say this. If any faction can use outflank, it's Targaryen.
That's true. With the field control safety net, yeah.
Yes, the field control safety net, you're at least going to be able to take outflank, potentially not on your own turn. Wow. You can actually go second and place an outflank unit on the board. And that has value against lists that aren't running Cav, because if you're not running Cav, the horse is now taken, you can't turn around easily.
Yep.
And Targaryens, you really don't want to activate just to turn around, because Drogo's on the other side of you, who can come in from a long distance away and fuck you up.
Yep.
I didn't say just any cavalry unit. Drogo, right? Drogo is coming in because you're not running any other commanders with these guys. I genuinely think that this is probably the only unit where outflank isn't a complete and utter meme.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you'll ever deploy them in outflank.
Right. Yeah.
But the threat that you could is actually a real threat. Rather than, I paid 1 point for Jarl, and I go, your list is 39 points. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very surprisingly durable. 4+ save, 4+ morale. You need a fairly concentrated attack to kill it in one go. Very hard to kill in one shot. Yeah, it's really not that bad, and yeah, I think you don't see them often in competitive lists because there's better things to take, even though they're pretty good value for 5 points. Mm-hmm. So I would probably put them at the high end of situational.
Yeah, I think that the only reason we don't see them played more often is because something we'll come across in a minute, which is kind of a Targ, but we'll rate them as neutrals. But Targaryen Stormcrow Mercs provide something very similar nowadays. But I do think Harakars are good.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think you include them in every list, but yeah.
I wouldn't feel like my opponent had dead weight if I saw Harakars across the table at all.
No. I know that in the US, Carl Gurney runs Harakars are one of his favourite units, and I do think they are pretty much straight up better than Screamers in the vast majority of situations. So, yeah.
The funny thing is, hate to keep
No, yeah, go for it.
talking about hrack cards. But the funny thing is that the 1 point you save on the hrack card doesn't really buy you much. Is the funny thing when you list build with Targaryens, it's like I saved a point. I didn't take Screamers, but no one took Screamers anyway, and that 5 point unit just slots weirdly into your list building.
Yeah, it doesn't gain you a huge amount.
8 point. It's like 8 point unit, 7 point Stormcrow activation, and then like 3 point units. Like the 5 pointer just slots weird.
Yeah. So, Lannister Guardsmen. Now that idleness means death is a rule, so you have to at least attack them and proc supremacy. That's a thing.
Yeah, that looks good. I was going to say they're kind of like wardens, but worse because they have worse morale, but they have supremacy. That is cool.
The problem with Lannisters is you don't really want to take guardsmen because you've got poor fellows.
Yeah.
That's purely it.
This unit can take a slap. Poor fellows, if they get attacked, will crumble in 2 hits. These guys will not probably crumble in 2 hits.
Maybe they're a bit better. Supremacy does play into what Lannisters want to do.
Yeah.
Again, the problem here, though, is, again, you've got a unit that's 4 move. It doesn't get to the positions it wants to get to if it gets misdeployed against cavalry, which is good. Cavalry will just outmaneuver it and just fucking ignore it, or just come and kill it. The saving grace, I think, with Lannister Guardsmen, is that they're less vulnerable to random pot shot attacks from low Greyjoy Bowman, right? Greyjoy Bowman can't just shoot these guys as a unit to attack.
Yeah.
Raiders, certainly outside of Mance Bubble, Raiders really don't want to be just attacking these guys because they can. Because you're just going to get absolutely slapped back, and you'll be like, "Oh, I just took 5 wounds if I wasn't careful."
Yeah.
But I don't think they're good. I still don't think they're good. I think that there's poor fellows offer you more at 4.
Agreed.
And yeah.
So, do you think, in the context of the Lannister list, would you put them in the middle of the middle tier, or are they worse than Tech Choice Trappers? What do you think? This is a tough one. I like them at the bottom of the tier, the bottom of the end.
I think they're situational. I think that Lannister Guardsmen, let's put it like this. I think Lannister Guardsmen probably see a little bit more play than you'd expect Loyalists or Trackers to play. But I think it's comparable.
I wonder, I'm just trying to think. I don't know why. I heard a loud no right now in Carlo's voice. I wonder if he would just dump them in ugly, be like, get it over with.
Yeah, I mean, that might be a sign of brain damage, Clarence, if you just heard Carlo say no. Or he might be stood outside your house. He is in America at the moment, so he may have just made the trip up to Canada. But, yeah, Carlo would be sat here rolling in his grave, or, rolling in his chair, and he'd be, doing this whole thing. He the bit where he looks really quietly and does, "You're an idiot." Or he does this whole thing where he reacts and goes, "No, what are you talking about? They're terrible." The 2 extremes of Carlo.
You watch more games than I do. Do you ever see Guardsmen?
I do see Guardsmen a lot. Shout out to Jesse, who runs them all the time when he plays Lannisters. I do see Guardsmen. I don't think Guardsmen are good, personally. I really don't think they're that good. In the style that I play, because I play Free Folk, I play these high activation lists that are very maneuverable, not just Free Folk, but when I play the Stark stuff, when I play the Baratheon stuff, Guardsmen just really don't bother me. Yeah. I'm going to put them down there. I think they see play, but I don't think they're good. Neutrals. Cutthroats. I'm going to straight up say this. I think Cutthroats, in neutrals, they're pretty good. Because it's basically your only option. I'd say they're middly pack. I think if you're looking outside of neutrals, I really think the 3+ vicious, potential rerolls and vulnerable. That's nothing to shake a stick at outside of neutral faction. I think that's perfectly good. They melt like soft butter, but I mean, yeah.
I just saw on the weekend a really interesting Baratheon list run by this guy named Reuben Parker at the local shop. He was running 9 activation Baratheons, double Warden, double Cutthroat, double Dragonstone Noble, 3 NCUs, and I was like, that's not bad.
Yeah, I've seen a list similar to that run, and I agree. I don't think it's terrible. I don't know if it's good, but I don't think it's trash. I really don't think it's absolute hot garbage coming out of the trash at you. I think it's probably serviceable.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of other factions ramp them up even more. If you go into Starks and all of a sudden they have, Caitlyn and Bolden from Tully Cav, like these guys can do a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone's saying.
Yeah, I think their plays great. I think high end of situational is a great spot.
Someone there saying that Luke obviously did very well with them in the US.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's again that's exactly what this kind of like bad but maybe useful tier is like, right? They are not something you just stick in the list and go, that's a good 5-point unit. Mm-hmm. They are something in the list that you're putting in the list for a specific reason. Yeah. And that's what this middle category is before. I say bad, but as Clarence used to say, it's situational. I just wanted the good, the bad, and the ugly, because yeah, I'd say that they sit comfortably in this situational kind of category in the middle. Yeah, I can get behind that. Stormcrow Mercenaries. I mean,
lots to say, in Targaryens, staple with the Unsullied Officer, right? I would say that's commonly seen in Starks, if you want a cheap bunker for your dog avatars. Does any other faction run Stormcrows, though? Yes.
Where do you think I'm going to put them?
I would put them in the middle tier. Low end. Okay. All right. Well, let's hear it. Why the low end? Oh, high end. Oh. This is the tease. Oh, all right. Not where I would have thought. Let's hear it.
I might be wrong. I need to just think about this for a second. But
okay.
I think there is serious consideration for Stormcrow Mercenaries being the best pickup at 5 points before you think about what you want to build. Obviously, neutral limit comes into play most of the time, but these guys with a Mormont veteran in are the defensive unit of the Starksworn Swords for the same cost. But you're now not having to pay 6 for them, you're paying 5. I think you run Davos in them to act as supply aid because it's better than running it with Wardens. I think if you're Mel bombing, you might as well do it on Stormcrows, where at least you can put something in there that might give you some level of protection or some level of kind of like threat elsewhere. Be it, I don't know, what can we put in there from Baratheons at 1 point to make them worthy? You could put Master Wardens in there, make them not chargeable as easily. You could drop a Red Priestess in there if you really cared. It's probably not going to make an attack that often.
Even their own, lieutenant is not bad, really.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's good, but he's certainly not bad. Yeah. Yeah, you can do that if you want to. You could even just go for something like Jack and
Dario's not bad.
Hagar.
At 1 point, yeah.
Jack and Hagar's not utter trash. As a result, I'm going to drop them down. They've got to be situational. All right.
I think so.
But I do think they're equivalent, roughly speaking, to the Cutthroats.
Yeah. Cutthroats are probably more consistent, but depending on the faction, you can just do interesting things with Stormcrows to fit in a random attachment that might do something significant. Like you can put Mira in there and just have traps for 5 points in a unit that still kind of fights.
Yep, 100%. Starks love them. I think Starks have always loved Stormcrow Mercenaries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything that's got a good value 1 point attachment will like Stormcrow Mercenaries.
Can't remember if I've seen Kingsguard in them. Like I think the Kingsguard that gives him +1 to hit and sundering is shockingly good.
Maybe. I'll be honest with you. Tyrion with counter strategy is not terrible. Is you a control piece?
Yeah.
That's not terrible. I've seen them. What I quite like with them in though. Modern guard captains. Hold the line. That's exactly what they're used for in Baratheons.
Right.
And actually, I think that has more threat in different ways than the Lannister supremacy style. When I charge you, I'm going to do a lot of damage now because I'm just going to activate and you go blah, rather than you having to attack me. But it's a very different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm tempted to say here. Yeah. They're probably slightly worse. But...
Yeah. That sounds fair.
And finally, Martell Spearmen. Where do you think? You've played them more than I have. I've not played them.
I'm torn. So right away, I'm going to say not ugly.
Okay,
I'll say what not ugly. What I like and what I don't like. I don't like how squishy they are. They are squishy with 5+ armor and 6 of morale. On the squishier side. I absolutely love tactical reposition. I think a pair of units gives your army such interesting options to just slide away and avoid danger. So I think that is great value. Set for charge is good with Herman. I don't know if it's good with anybody else because it's like 7 attacks hit on 4s. No way to add keywords. Who cares? So I'm really torn. I feel like I've kept saying like high end of situational. Yeah, I don't know. And right now, in the context of Martells, where do they lean? I don't know. It's really early. Do they build 8 activation 5/3 lists? Do they build 5/2 lists with 7 activations that are more elite, and therefore the spearmen get dropped? It's tough to say. I think they're going to be probably right in the middle, maybe middle of situational or high end, like upper end, not the high end, upper end.
So you're saying something like...
Yeah, something like past the Followers of Bone, probably. Around there, yeah. There-ish is where I'd put them, yeah. There-ish.
Do you think you'd go above... I'd put them probably above the neutral stuff, right? If we think about neutrals across... Like, the problem is neutrals because it can appear in more lists. They're going to find more niches. Right. Whereas I think the Martells are probably a staple for the Martells. They also don't have access to a 4-point infantry unit, so they kind of are shifted. You could argue that it's up here because they kind of have to take them.
Yep, that's true.
Which I think I'll leave them there. I think at the bottom end of pick this because I think in list building as a Martell player at the moment, which at the moment, big caveat on this, you have to take Martell Spearmen to make your list kind of work. Basically, at least one of, probably 2. And they're absolutely fine functional units on their own. And there's nothing wrong with
I
that.
love tactical reposition. That's a commander ability that they put on their basic unit. And I think no other faction can run multiple copies of it at the same time. And I think it takes a lot of careful maneuvering to get the most out of it. But it can really surprise people with how slippery they are or how aggressive you might want to be and get key units into range. Because I think it's anything, right? Even they can shift anything, cavalry, anything can be shifted with that positioning.
Yep.
archers. You know, it's got so much flexibility. I think that it's not flashy, but it can really do some serious work if you don't expect it.
Does the job.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm happy with that. I think. Yeah. I think I'm happy with that. I'm cool with that. And yeah, good cunning ploy in the base deck, which actually is a positive thing.
Oh, yeah, that's very true. Yep, right in the base deck. That's true.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. Finalized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are my images. Those are my things. So, lots of 5-point units, lots of 4-point units. Now, I thought it was really interesting. I saw a comment earlier, and I didn't mention it, but I will now mention it. Martin Thompson said, "Please pretend Halberdiers and City Watch are 5 points for the sake of analysis." We know they're not worth 6, so where would they belong among the other 5-point units? Well, because they're not a 5-point unit, we won't rank them in with the other 5-point units.
Side note, I was gonna say I made the 6-point tier list, or most of it, and Lannisters have a crap ton of 6-point units.
Yes, they do. They are not.
All of which you may find the same tier.
Situational, bad end, the ugly end of situational, right? Situational, bad. Probably on the ugly end of situational. I think these guys are really good. These guys are good.
Those guys are good. These guys are good. They're good.
Who fucking knows at this point? Red Cloaks seem like they're probably quite good at some times, and other times they seem like they're utter trash tier. They don't do anything. Fine. Situational.
Yeah. Sometimes they do magic.
I have a feeling that this is a unit that you just go slap bang right down the middle and say this unit could be amazing and could be trash, and it's entirely dependent on your opponent.
Yeah.
And their last Port City Watch.
Crap.
I don't think they are. But what I think and what I know are two different things. I think they're comparable. I really think that they are comparable to the Mountsmen. Like, let's put it like this. The only reason I think Mountsmen get played over Lannisport City Watch is because Mountsmen are Clegane. And that is literally the only reason. I don't see them, either of them, being particularly good. So yeah.
That's a preview for next week, folks.
Preview for next week. But yeah, there's the fast analysis, Martin. Only crossbows are good. Yeah, only crossbowmen are good, Richard. Yeah, in line. Agreed. I think crossbowmen are good though, and it's worth remembering that. Clegane Jokers, you mean? Clegane Brigands. Yeah, Clegane Brigands are.
There's 7 points.
I just want to remind people. Remember, they reduced the cost of all light cavalry to 6 points. These still exist. Just don't look at them for too long because you might lose brain cells. Cool. Yeah. I think there's nothing else to say more on the Lannisters there for now, based on questions and things. All right then. So, obviously, like we said, guys, you may disagree, you may agree with our lists. Feel free to let us know. We can save this, right? And can we share this? Is this a thing that we can share?
No, I just started using it. It says view community rank. I'm not sure if that means people can vote on it. I really don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's pretty cool.
But anyway, there's ours. I'll make sure I share them on the Discord if you're on the Stats Discord, and I'll also post them on Facebook. If anyone wants to create their own lists using our tier structures there, I will post a list in the description of this video, or if you're listening on the podcast, I'll post it in the description on the podcast. So you can go on there, do that if you want to. Share them with me on Discord or on Facebook if you want to do it on Facebook. And then, we can discuss it maybe to see if there's any major differences. Hopefully people found that interesting and fun. It is a bit of a different thing that we've not done here before. We may touch on
I found it very educational. As someone who doesn't play, as someone who does not play as much anymore, it was really cool to get some insight as to, for example, why Varamir's animals aren't that good. Like I would have just thought they're auto includes, to be honest. But so I found that very educational.
Some people saying they want NCUs at some point.
Oh, I want to give a shout out to the Sunday Slaughter crew because I saw them do an NCU tier list way back, and it kind of inspired this whole thing. So maybe we'll do one down the road. But yeah, they were there first. So big props to I think it's Chris Tran and Lord Commander Bob and the whole crew there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did one. There was a long discussion. I think it was on one of their podcasts, I think. Do these rankings line up with stats? That's a good question. We could quickly compare. Let's have a little look. I'm not going to make any major comment on this, so just bear that in mind. Just going to literally compare them. So, combat units. We've got Raiders at the top. Yeah, they were pretty high on our 4-point list. Not as big as Coldhands or Chariot. So, that's interesting. I think that's partially just because Raiders get picked more as well, which helps. But the Chariot is up there as well. And Coldhands isn't yet. Gregor's up there. Do we say Gregor's up there? Yeah, Gregor's up there. Coldhands is up there, same kind of level as Gregor. Shaggy's up there, he's on the 3-point list. We mentioned Shaggy. Then's up there as I think the first 5-point unit on the list. Yes, they're the first 5-point unit on the list, Then Warriors.
Interesting.
So yeah, they fit with our 5s there. Trapper's up there for Crossbowmen. We talked about Lannister Guardsmen, the best 6-point unit Lancers have access to. There you go. They're up there. Housebolt and Cutthroats make the second.
Very high.
Yeah.
Very highly rated.
Have a feeling that's to do with the fact that they typically get played a lot in neutrals, and when neutrals win, they're typically running quite a few Bolt and Cutthroats. We've got Jorah's up there. 3 Ghost is up there. There's another 3.
That's the first dog. Oh, Shaggy was the first dog.
No, Shaggy was the first dog. Jorah's up there as well. Varamir and his dogs and things wolves and stuff won't be up that high yet because I haven't seen enough play. So just bear that one in mind. But Ironborn Bowmen in at 4. Stormcrow Mercenaries. Then we've got Trappers, surprisingly high. I don't think they're that good.
That's the one that threw me off. Yeah.
I think they're being carried by Asher. Asher attachment.
Interesting.
Drowned Men are up there, which is not. Wow.
Okay. Spearmen are. Is that the second highest 5-point unit after Cutthroats? Oh, and Stormcrow Mercs, right?
Stormcrows, Mercs, and Fens.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So this is like the 4th highest 5-point unit, roughly. That's pretty good.
At the moment, yeah. Cave Dweller Savages, but that's because they never get played.
What?
I know, right? I don't think they ever get played. Yeah, there's like 33 games with them, and their win rate's atrocious. They don't see play. But they did very well, surprisingly, when they did get played randomly in April and in June. Wow. People are winning with them. Might just be free folk things. Summers up there. Still positive. Starts on Swords, another 5-point unit we said was good. Coming in at, I think, the 4th or 5th unit there.
The situational area now, right? This is the situational area where things are
moving
on
into
the fence.
Crannogman Trackers up there. Varamir's up there. Shadowcat. Tell you who we haven't seen. Conscripts down at -7. I'm guessing conscripts just circulate around that 0 mark. Yeah, I mean they have a relatively comfortable win rate. Some months not. They're just circulating around that 0.
Yep.
Let's have a look at the terrible end, because we've grown to the point where we've stopped. We're into like, oh look, how could gains Mountain Men?
Still the bottom, dang.
Ironborn Reavers, right down there.
Wow, I did not expect that. 3rd worst rated unit.
They really are ugly. Like we gave them a bit of leeway. They are not good.
Damn.
Highgarden Pikemen down there, and Wardens are only marginally better, like ranking wise. Like this is the thing. Like I don't think either of them are good for Baratheon. You know, Harakars are only there as well, which is surprising. I think Harakars are way lower that than they should be. Spearwives. Just want to see who the lowest.
This is such a cool discussion. I don't know if I can make it back next week, unfortunately, because it's the day before school and I might be prepping and whatnot. But I would encourage you and Carlo to find a third person. You guys, if I can't come back to like break the tie and like add a third point of view.
I have to see. I might be alone next week, you see, so I might have to just carry it myself. I won't be alone. I'm sure I'll find somebody to join me.
You need hand puppets.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we're pretty off the stats. You know, obviously anyone here we could just say, oh, just rank them in the terms of the stats. But it's our opinions, right? That's the thing. It's our opinion, and I'd like to think it's heavily weighted on how the stats are, kind of. But you know, we are wrong. It can be wrong, so that's fine. But yeah, have a go. Have a little think. Tell us what your opinions are, and do share it with us. So, it's taking us towards the end of the show, Clarence.
Yeah.
Are you a happy man? Are you happy that you've been here for a couple of weeks now?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really enjoyed. I mean, yeah, I suggested the idea, but I really enjoyed these episodes. Lots of interesting things to like go back and forth on and disagree about. I think that's really interesting.
Awesome. Have you got anything coming up? I know that you obviously had the event at the weekend that you couldn't make it out to, but you've got much coming up in your own life except starting work again?
Nope. Just going back to work next week. Locally, there's going to be an event 2 weeks from now, and then another one was announced in October. So, you know, I'm glad that events are still happening. Hopefully to, you know, pump up those numbers and get more people in.
Awesome. Brilliant. That's what I like to hear. So, we'll do our bit, and then we'll call it a day. So, events running up this week. We have got, anyone who's not following on, Adopticon has started, Bob's kind of thingy event. I will just quickly have a look at this. I think it's 58, but I have to remember exactly. 59 people in the end signed up.
Wow.
Big old kind of like weekly events going on. So there's lots of games that will no doubt be streamed and people sharing them in Discord and stuff. I would say, let's have a look at who's doing well, but there's no point. Like there's like some games. How many games have been played? 10 games so far of. It's like less than half the round.
Look at these club names trolling Brett. There's like a couple.
Yeah. Free for P. Egypt's name was my idea. Champs are better than Brett. It's true.
That's so funny.
First player to play Martell in an IRL tournament from Adam Pye. Pandemic.
Oh yes, that's right. Yep.
But yeah, cool. So. Events this week. We have the Monday Night Melee, which is happening, according to this, today. It starts today anyway, at the Rusty Scabbard in Lexington, Kentucky. So I hope that goes really well. We've got, insert some Polish there for another Polish event happening in Białystok. Białystok? I have no idea. That's happening this weekend. We've got a little tournament happening in Borscht in Germany. We have an event happening in Kansas in Tabletop Gaming Hobby in Overland Park, Kansas, the US. Wow, we've got an event in Mexico. Oh, amazing. Lovely to see it. Batalla de los Alamos. In CDMX Mexico. That doesn't mean a single thing to me, but I'm sure it means something to people in Mexico. So I really hope that goes well. We've got the third event happening in Belgium in Grand Rue 23, Intron Ludique. We've got an event happening in Dijon, in France. We've got an event happening in Kingdom Gaming in Northampton in the UK. We've got one more happening in... that's next week. Oh, I'm sorry, Russia. That's next week. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 events happening across this weekend, or today, through till the end of the year. Which I think leads us to what kind of like a healthy, roughly 100 players playing games this weekend in tournaments. Never mind all the online stuff that we've got going on and all the other various different things going on around the world. All the games that everyone here will be playing. Are you going to get any games in this week, Clarence?
Yeah, Wednesday is the local game night at the shop, and Sunday as well. So yeah, hopefully come in twice to practice out this Triple Queensman madness.
Oh wow, Triple Queensman madness, love it. All right then, guys. There's only one last thing to do, and we've saved it right till the end, because this man doesn't need any introduction. And anybody who's been here before will know that these are quite nice miniatures. I had this sent in from Lucas Aurelius last week, sharing his King Robb in the north. Clearly teching for his new list builds. Lovely. Lovely little
Wow,
Stark.
that's cool.
Oh, yeah. Fits with obviously the theme and everything that he's made for the rest of his Starks. So thanks a lot for that, Luke. It is, as always, pretty damn good. Because Carlo's not here. It's a solid 0 from me.
Solid 0.
All right then, guys. And with that, we'll end this week. I hope you all have a great week. I hope you have some great song. And I will see you all next week. See you later.
See you, folks.
Ready? Aim!
There's too many.
Anyone see my bird?
Stop me!